Hey now, and Happy New Year. We are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With Getting Over's 2025 year in review. An absolute ton went down over the last 12 months, and we are going to take you all the way from January 1st to December 31st, breaking down as much as we can recall from the last year in professional wrestling. This show, in the past, it has gone on for more than 3 hours. We are going to do our absolute best to present this in as much of a truncated format as we possibly can, because we have additional performance-enhancing audio coming your way over the next couple of weeks. This is indeed our fourth annual year in review episode. We started in 2022 because the world of professional wrestling was so crazy. That continued into 2023, and we just decided, you know what? Let's go ahead and make this a yearly tradition. While the news cycle definitely slowed down a bit in 2024, it ratcheted back up in a major way in 2025. So there is plenty to discuss from these 365 days. So difficult to do, by the way, because there's no offseason in professional wrestling. WWE didn't even take its foot off the gas during the holiday season like it has in the past. And during the summer into the fall, it went pedal to the metal and stuck it all the way down to the floor. So we have plenty to discuss on this special edition of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. But before we do, the Silver King does need to remind you that here at Getting Over,
it's all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, leave a 5-star rating on Apple, take a little extra time, leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. And don't forget,
I happen to love the number 5.
And I hope you do as well. For $5 a month or $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You will get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, exclusive news analysis posts every week. And because this episode is coming out at the beginning of 2026, you have the ability to sign up and subscribe for the entire calendar year. Please do so. buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Continue supporting us as we support you with this performance-enhancing audio. With that said, allow me to welcome in Vintage Chris Vanini. You and I just got off a long New Year's Eve, New Year's Day run of the college football playoffs. I know you got to attend a game. We're settling back into the professional wrestling world with 2026 beginning. How has the new year started for you, Chris?
It's been busy. I was on the field at the Cotton Bowl, covered that game, and Michael Irvin was cutting promos about Miami coming back and being back and all that stuff. So it's kind of, I was thinking about it, like, I'm surprised he hasn't been a part of pro wrestling, because he's as pro wrestling as you get in football right now. But busy weekend, but a interesting year in pro wrestling to look back on. Less major change than we've had in the previous several years, I think. Mm-hmm. But we're kind of settling into this new era, and I think there's some good and bad in that.
I'm not going to call him the Dennis Rodman of the NFL, because that's not fair. But from an outgoing personality standpoint, he certainly could have an impact on professional wrestling if he was to, try his mind there as a promo or, just special appearance or whatever the case. You feel it when Michael Irvin's around every single time. And I hate saying that because obviously I'm a Florida Gators fan and I pretty much hate the Miami Hurricanes. So, if you're a fan, congratulations getting to the semifinals. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Certainly not football. We are here to talk pro wrestling. And Chris, we have a lot to get to, because not only are we breaking down everything that happened in 2025, we will be going over from our 2024 year in review, our predictions for 2025, our resolutions for 2025. And at the end of the show, we're going to give you predictions for 2026 and resolutions for 2026. So we have multiple segments, a ton to get to. This is the type of performance-enhancing audio that we deliver to your ear holes if you happen to be a first-time listener of this podcast. Let me off the top just kind of let you know the way we do things here. We have WWE episodes every Tuesday. We have NXT and AEW episodes every Thursday. We also do instant analysis of pay-per-views, premium live events, and specials. Oh, and by the way, we do bonus episodes throughout the year as well, whether it's breaking news, retirement retrospectives. We basically do it all here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, including handout awards. And that will be coming here at the start of 2026. As Chris, we are ready to present the 2025 Getting Over Awards, aka
the Meaties.
If you are indeed listening to this episode on Friday, January 2nd, or through the first weekend of 2026, the ballot will be posted across our social media at Getting Overcast. When you follow us on Twitter or Blue Sky, you get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show, and you will be able to vote in the 2025 Getting Over Awards, aka
the Meaties.
And once that show is published, you can listen to it in full length on YouTube. You can even watch us on YouTube when we do full-length video interviews with a bunch of superstars, and we did a ton in 2025 with way more to come in 2026. So across the board, follow us on social media at Getting Overcast. Chris, as we get into the 2025 year in review, the first thing we need to do is go over our predictions. And we did these at the end of our 2024 year in review. And we always bring in a special guest judge to let us know whether we were correct or incorrect with our predictions for the year. That judge this year, as it was last year, is L.A. Knight.
I don't remember my predictions, so you're going to tell me them
them
here, and I'm curious what they were.
Oh, I have them, and we're going to go shot for shot and see how we did. Now, last year, just to recap everyone, we both went 1 and 2 in our predictions. We make 3 each, and we do our best to have them be somewhat bold, but also things that we believe are possible to be achieved or accomplished by either the companies, individual wrestlers, superstars, whatever the case might be. So our 2025 predictions, we're going to go one by one. We're going to start with Chris, and then we're going to go to Adam. Chris's first prediction, that Will Ospreay would win the AEW championship.
No.
Chris, that did not happen. And frankly, it didn't come close to happening because not only was he injured at the end of the year, but he was not really in the main part of the championship storyline during the campaign. I'm not saying he didn't challenge for the title or wasn't in the main event of AEW. He certainly was. But it never seemed like his trajectory was the championship in 2025. It looks like that may be the plan for 2026. All in, back in London, I presume, this year. Maybe they strap him up there. But yeah, did not happen in 2025.
Didn't happen. Should have happened at the AEW show that I went to, which was All In Texas. But instead, they went Moxley, Hangman. So I'm surprised that they haven't shot Will Ospreay up to the top of the face of this company, and him being injured certainly played a factor this time around. But it's been a slower burn than I would have expected. I was wrong.
I like that they're showing patience with him. Not everyone needs to get the rocket strapped to them immediately. And the rocket is strapped to the guy. Let's not get it twisted. I mean, he's one of the most popular people in the company, but you don't always need to give someone the championship right away. So I like the way that they've slow played it, featured other people. That's pretty positive. Chad Gable will win his first singles title in WWE, specifically the United States Championship. Now, I'm going to give myself
No.
but I do think we need to note that Gable getting injured during the year while running a gimmick that would have been perfect with the United States Championship at least made this extremely plausible as something that might have happened had he not gotten hurt.
What gimmick are you talking about?
Just the American gimmick that he's always doing. He really leaned into it a little bit. So I believe that possibly could have resulted in the US title. That's
okay.
Your second prediction, Matt Cardona will return to WWE. Now, this was the same prediction you made in 2022. And you did clarify, I just want to be clarify, whatever, that you thought he would be under contract with WWE. So
did I? Oh,
you did.
Man.
Now Matt Cardona did return to WWE. He appeared on both NXT and the main roster. He was a part of the Last Time Is Now tournament for John Cena's last match, but he absolutely was not under contract with WWE. However, they did release new merchandise for him, and it was as Zack Ryder. So he definitely signed some type of paper, right? For a short period of time. I'm going to be nice, and I will give you, but it really is a 50%, if we're being honest.
Woo, woo, woo. That was a cool moment in that tournament. He's done a really good job over the last 5 years of building himself up on the indies, and he's been maybe a little bit too thirsty about being open about wanting to be back in WWE, but he looked the part when he showed up. And so cool moment for him. Chelsea Green, his wife, being there as well. So glad I got that one right.
Yeah, he got a fantastic response when he showed back up. But again, we'll see if they ever bring him back in a more significant role. I just don't know that that's going to happen, at least not in the short term. Now, you know which one's coming next for the Silver King, Chris. John Cena winning a 17th World Championship. I said it would be a key story point during the final run, and he will accomplish that feat, breaking Ric Flair's record. Not only was I right on about this, it resulted in a bet between you and I, and a massive victory, Silver King over Vintage, that resulted in you rapping both of John Cena's entrance themes on this podcast. So that doesn't just get, it gets a bonus one as well. Double yeah.
Very much so. I was wrong, and I was wrong quickly.
Yeah, really fast.
We've been go if you never heard me rap the John Cena themes, go back and find that episode, because it was an adventure.
We really should point that out. I don't know what episode it was, but we're gonna have to go back in the archives and find it. We'll point it out on the Getting Over Awards, aka
the meaties. You could also maybe put it in the show notes too if we find it.
Yeah, we could possibly do that as well. Your third prediction: Dana White will appear on WWE TV and get involved at least briefly in some sort of storyline. Again, Chris, you're kind of getting 50% credit. Now, did he show up? Yeah, he was in the crowd. I believe it was at SummerSlam, I want to say. Maybe it was it was at WrestleMania. And he got he got booed vociferously by the crowd. I think they showed him twice. And twice inside of like 30 minutes or an hour. Got booed both times, but he was not involved in the product whatsoever. So again, I'm going to give you 50% credit. You'll get the sound from LA Knight. But ultimately, I'm going to call your predictions 1 and 2 out of 3. 1 win and 2 losses.
Yeah.
You got 2 50%, and otherwise, you didn't get anything right.
Yeah, I would credit myself for Cardona. I wouldn't credit myself for this one, because it was just like a typical celebrities there in the crowd. You show him, you shot him out. That wasn't that could have been any celebrity. It wasn't to the extent I would have expected. So yeah, I wouldn't fully count that one for me either.
So either way, you're 1 and 2 on the year. Now, Silver King's third prediction was that AEW would run Toni Storm versus Mariah May as the final match of Grand Slam Australia as the first women's main event in company history, with Storm winning the title. So I was correct about this. Grand Slam Australia was main evented by Toni Storm and Mariah May, and Toni won the title, and all that happened. But it was not the first women's main event in company history, because this was changed from a pay-per-view to a regular show. So I don't really think that I'm at fault for them making that change. The prediction still hit. It would have been in that spot. That show left a lot to be desired compared to expectation. Nevertheless, that match happened in that spot on that show. I'm taking the credit.
Yeah, I think that's actually pretty good for us. You got some half ones in there. For the most part, we were like on the right track.
Pretty solid.
I think we did a good job.
I was 2 and 1. You're 1 and 2. And you know what? For just predictions we're throwing out there, the fact that each of us was kind of on point with some of this stuff was really positive. Now, those were the predictions. We also had resolutions, things we wanted to see from WWE, AEW, and in professional wrestling in general in 2025. You probably don't remember yours either. I'm going to run through them, but I'm going to go person by person. I'm going to read all of my resolutions for 2025. We'll talk about whether they came true or happened, and then the same with yours. So mine were for wrestlers in AEW, especially to stop licking and swallowing opponents' blood. That did not happen. Paul Levesque to allow Io Sky to take her mantle as the best women's wrestler in the world and beat Rhea Ripley. That definitely happened. AEW to stop telling us that they're the greatest. Nope. WWE figuring out a way to give us more wrestling. I mean, they gave us more shows, but I was talking about more wrestling on the shows, like not having 4 to 5 match premium live event cards. That did not happen. And WWE to fix its entrance music problem. I will say that they improved this year in totality, but they definitely did not fix it. They brought some themes back, then took them away, like Sheamus. They made some good new ones, and others were extremely faulty. And they also went back and forth and didn't solidify production on some of them. That was a huge issue as well. So I would say that, that didn't necessarily happen, but it was an improvement from the year prior. Your resolutions, Chris, were WWE figuring out how to better bleep curse words, which I would say was actually achieved to a degree. We stopped getting blacked out screens. They figured out how to only bleep the bad word most of the time versus like the 30-second mutes. You said you didn't want AEW to do multiple blade jobs in singular matches, let alone across whole pay-per-views. That definitely did not happen. You wanted WWE to give us more Jesse the Body Ventura outside of Saturday Night Main Event. Not only did that not happen, he didn't appear on every SNME either. You wanted WWE to let us cheer for Chelsea Green and make her a babyface at least briefly. That did not happen. And for all of wrestling, you wanted better t-shirts because you said most of them are embarrassing to wear. I'm not sure we got that one either, bud.
I don't think so. No.
So those were the
Chelsea Green is she wasn't a babyface, but she's in a lot of things.
Yeah, but you wanted them to let us cheer for her. Like your point was that she was so popular during Money in the Bank that you wanted her to be able to get those reactions on screen regularly, and that did not happen.
Yeah, did she win the U.S. title this year? Or was
she won the U.S. title, lost it, and then won it back before the year was out.
Right, but did she win it in 2025? Is that when it started?
Well, I'm trying to remember. Was she the inaugural champion? Because I think the inaugural champion was crowned at the end of 2024, I want to say.
It was, December 2024.
Oh, wow.
So
that's a good poll. Silver can get to a little Barry Horowitz on that. That's a real good poll that I knew that was 2024 instead of 2025. So yeah, those were our resolutions. And the only other thing I wanted to discuss before we get into this entire year in review breakdown is at times during the year, we were pointing out the greatest signs that we saw on television, whether it was WWE, AEW. I actually was able to track a couple of them. So Chris, even though this is really a visual type of deal, I'm going to just explain them here. There were 3 signs that we said were the best ones of the year, and we never added to that total. So that's hugely positive. The first was John Cena as Chairman Mao, I believe. So like Chairman Cena, which was like at the beginning of the year, like January. And that was incredible. We got the Mona Leva when WWE went to France, I believe. That was incredible. And then there was a sign on the April 14th edition of Raw, which I believe was the Raw before WrestleMania. And that sign said, "This has financially ruined me." It was someone sitting on the floor with obviously high price tickets because of what WWE was doing. So I thought those were the 3 best signs of the year. Chairman Cena for me, number 1. It was like the first great sign we saw and nothing ever surpassed it.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, for sure.
All right. So let's get into the 2025 year in review. Before we get to that briefly, I do want to tell you that as we enter 2026, whether we're talking WWE, AEW, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, premium live events on Netflix, even Saturday Night's Main Event, which airs on YouTube, AEW, they do pay-per-views on HBO Max domestically, but elsewhere, I believe Triller internationally. These days, the Silver King is all in with NordVPN. It's easy to set up. It's a drastically better viewing experience. You get high quality streams, and for WWE commercial-free shows, all you have to do is sign up at nordvpn.com/gettingover, open the app, quick connect to another country like Canada, United Kingdom, open Netflix if it's WWE, watch the show, go to Triller if it's AEW, order the pay-per-view, save some money. NordVPN also allows you to get around online censorship or surveillance, protect your private data when web browsing, and avoid online threats. And you can use one account with 10 different devices. So get the best discount. Go to nordvpn.com/gettingover. Our link gives you 4 extra free months off the already discounted 2-year plan. There's no risk, nor does a 30-day money-back guarantee. So improve your WWE viewing, save some money, browse safer online, and get the best discount for the best VPN at nordvpn.com/gettingover. We love having NordVPN as the official singular sponsor of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, and that is continuing into 2026. We extended our deal. Thank you so much for supporting us, NordVPN. All right, Chris, let's break down the entirety of 2025 day by day in our year in review. Of course, we're going to start with January, go all the way through December. And for the first time, we actually have notes for January 1st and December 31st. So the way this is going to work is Silver King is basically going to read a bunch of notes from the year, and I will expand on some stuff I want to talk about. Vintage will butt in and interrupt me with things he wants to discuss further. And we're going to get through the entire year, and we're going to do it as expeditiously as we possibly can, because a reminder, on the back end, we will have our 2026 predictions and our 2026 resolutions as well. So let's get it started with January, and we're beginning, as I said, with New Year's Day, January 1st. Shinsuke Nakamura and Omos wrestled on Pro Wrestling Noah's The New Year Show on loan from WWE. Nakamura was there with the United States Championship, and Omos won the GHC Tag Team titles, drawing rave reviews. He returned stateside soon after. He had largely been off WWE TV. Omos only making 2 appearances in AAA since, and we will, of course, talk about those later. WWE had a bunch of people go over to Japan during the year. A couple, I think, won titles and did other stuff. This will probably be the only one that we mention just for the sake of time. Also on the 1st, AEW made its debut on Max with a live simulcast of Dynamite. From the 3rd through the 7th of January, Tiffany Stratton successfully cashed in Money in the Bank with a double swerve on the first ever 3-hour SmackDown that featured a dark blue mat also for the first time. Rhea Ripley beat Liv Morgan during the first Raw on Netflix, and Julia beat Roxanne Perez on NXT from Los Angeles. All 3 major WWE Women's Championships changed hands inside of 5 days to start the year, so a total reset of the women's division. On the 4th, Wrestle Kingdom 19 from New Japan, El Phantasmo won the NJPW TV title after beating Cancer. Kenny Omega beat Gabe Kidd in the first match of the year contender of 2025. And Konosuke Takeshita won the Never Openweight Championship in a title versus title match. On the 5th, Wrestle Dynasty was held as a crossover New Japan AEW show for the first time. On the 6th, WWE marked the debut of Monday Night Raw on Netflix, a show that opened with Dwayne Johnson completely breaking kayfabe. This was also the debut of the black ring mats and gray referee shirts, you'll remember. John Cena declared for the Royal Rumble, promised to win number 17. Rhea Ripley beat Liv to win the title, as I mentioned. Travis Scott smoked a blunt while entering with Jey Uso, and Hulk Hogan got his ass booed out of the building. This was a wild show that simultaneously failed to live up to expectations, but also provided a ton of talking points, Chris, for moments throughout this year.
Yeah, it definitely set the tone for what the year was going to be, which was leaning into more kayfabe breaking, the understanding that Hulk Hogan was not forgiven, CM Punk being at the top of the company with Seth Rollins, and and just kind of Raw in a new spot. I think as we look at Raw on Netflix overall, I think I like it. Like I wasn't sure how I'd feel about it. You know, how that all went. Not being able to change channels and commercials and all that kind of stuff. You know, what was going to be the commercial situation. I think I come out of it feeling like there was a lot less change than I thought going in.
Yeah, and it's probably smart for us to do a retrospective of the first year of Raw on Netflix this coming Tuesday on our next WWE episode, because that will be the 1-year anniversary. So we can look at like expectation versus reality of Raw on Netflix. But the other thing that this really started for us was it showed the TKO-ification of WWE as it would transpire throughout the year. Dwayne Johnson inserting himself, ads all over the mats, a focus on celebrities over content in some cases, just a year that was marred. And, there's a lot of disagreement for me. People say, WWE had a terrible creative year, worse than it did under Vince McMahon. No, it didn't. Was it worse than, 2023 and 2024? Yeah, it was. But it was still a lot of positive things that happened. However, a lot of it got overshadowed by the TKO-ification of the company, some stuff with John Cena's retirement run, and all of that really started on the first Raw on Netflix, which was January 6th. On the 7th, in addition to Julia beating Perez at NXT New Year's Evil, Obafemi took down Trick Williams for the NXT title, and The Rock ran out the show cutting an unscripted promo. Rock's promo, and, I'm just going to guess, I think he was drunk on tequila during this, and that's why it happened that way. But Rock's promo and New Year's Evil as a whole, it was better than what happened 24 hours earlier on Raw. Like, his promo was better, the show was better, the matches were better. It was pretty crazy, apples to apples, 24 hours later. On the 13th, Penta debuted in WWE on a Raw that, again, was better than its debut. My Television also showed up on the broadcast because WWE aired a clip I taped of Cooper DeJean doing a pedigree celebration during an Eagles game. Lyra Valkyria became the inaugural Intercontinental Champion here as well. On the 15th, Kenny Omega and Samoa Joe returned to AEW. On the 16th, WWE Hall of Famer Bob Uecker died. WWE and TNA also announced a multi-year partnership, including an NXT TNA talent exchange that continued through the year into 2026. It is not showing any signs of slowing down. And while it has benefited TNA massively, as we'll talk about in a bit, for NXT, it has really convoluted the product on television. On the 17th, and this is a trend, WWE spoiled Charlotte Flair's Royal Rumble return on SmackDown 2 weeks before the show. On the 24th, Kevin Owens cut a promo on Matthew McConaughey on SmackDown. This show included a talent transfer with Bayley going to Raw and SmackDown getting Damian Priest along with Braun Strowman, The Miz, the Wyatt Six, and eventually Selena Vega. So a 1-9 trade. And yet Raw still won that trade. On the 25th, Gunther beat Jey Uso on Saturday night's main event the week before the Royal Rumble. On the 27th, JD McDonough took that nasty springboard moonsault bump into the announce table on Raw. That kept him out of action for months. He had broken ribs and a punctured lung. Still finished the match, hit a couple high-risk spots. That was crazy looking back at it in retrospect. Moving into February. On the 1st, the Royal Rumble with vintage Chris Vanini in attendance. Jordan Grace debuted as a full-time superstar. Stephanie Vaquer made her main roster debut. Alexa Bliss returned. Trish Stratus returned. Nikki Bella returned. Charlotte Flair's spoiled return ended with her winning the Royal Rumble. There were some crazy bumps in the Cody Rhodes-Kevin Owens match. iShow's Speed wrestled in the men's match, got murked by Braun Breaker on a spear. Joe Hendry debuted on the main roster. Roman Reigns and Breaker fought. AJ Styles and John Cena both returned. The Reigns, Seth Rollins, CM Punk WrestleMania blow-up happened after all three of them got eliminated. And Jay took out Cena to be the most surprising Royal Rumble winner since 1999, or maybe ever, depending how you felt about that year. After the show, Drew McIntyre expressed anger backstage, and Cena put himself in the Elimination Chamber match, a harbinger of what was to come. And Vintage was not allowed to ask a question to Cena, as he was promised that he would get the opportunity to do. Chris, you were there at the Royal Rumble. This kicked the shit out of the 2024 Royal Rumble, which the Silver King attended. So I was angry that you got a way, way better show than I did. I remember this show, looking back on it, as being one of the better ones of the year for WWE, just because of how much happened and how much got set up for the future. Though Charlotte winning the women's match was a massive down point.
Yeah, and this was in Indianapolis, my brother and my brother-in-law. And remember, it wasn't going to be the full stadium, but the ticket sales were so good that they did open up all of Lucas Oil Stadium. Good show. The promo, the vignette promo for Cody, Kevin Owens going into that match might be the best of the year. It was with the Papa Roach song.
Yes, that's
I've
right.
gone back and watched it a lot.
Good call.
And great physical match. I just wish there was a fifth match on the card. It was one of the four, it's a 4-match card, one of which is a tag match that I don't think had a real finish.
The DIY Motor City Machine Guns, was it best of 3, I think? Yeah, right?
Something like that. And then the Profits came in. The Profits came in and were involved in the finish and somehow. But overall, fun show, good show. Jay winning was kind of a stunner. And that started the online conversation of, WWE and what they're giving with fans, even though people wanted Jey Uso to win.
Oh, yeah.
Went crazy for him. He was getting over. But this is the one that started the conversation of Jey Uso can't wrestle. But it was like reverse of the Daniel Bryan situation from all those years ago. And it started with this show.
I mean, Jey Uso was one of the hottest topics of the entire year, starting with the show. Again, he lost to Gunther the week before. And I mean, there was not a 2-week period that went by in 2025 where there was not some type of conversation about Jey Uso, the way he was being booked, platformed, yeeting. There was something every couple of weeks where it was the biggest controversy or something that, fans were split over to some degree.
And it came right after him losing to Gunther
the
week prior on Saturday's main event. So it was like, oh, that was Jey Uso's moment at the top. And then, nope, they're going to ride with him and give him the Rumble win. So that was a big moment.
And by the way, they are doing that Saturday night's main event 1 week before the Royal Rumble this year as well, which is just incomprehensible.
I hate that. Just make the Rumble a bigger show.
It doesn't really make any sense at all. It doesn't. On the 8th of February, WWE released and/or did not renew 11 superstars contracts, including Cedric Alexander, Giovanni Vinci, Sonya Deville, and Isla Dawn. Cedric wound up in TNA. Isla recently got some work in AEW. Vinci, I believe, is dealing with visa issues still, reportedly. I have no idea what's up with Sonya at all. On the 10th, Gunther decapitated a child throwing his jacket into the crowd, or he actually threw it at Pat McAfee. He ducked, and it hit a child in the crowd during a segment with Jey Uso on Raw. On the 11th, Ricky Saints surprised with the debut on NXT. Of course, that's the Ricky Starks. He was later known as Ricky Saints. On the 13th, Chris Bay took his first steps after being paralyzed in the ring. That was a huge moment. On the 15th Women Open and Closed NXT Vengeance Day, Stephanie Vaquer won the North American title. Jordynne Grace began her NXT career. The women also main evented AEW Grand Slam Australia, as I mentioned earlier, with Toni Storm winning the title from Mariah May. On the 21st, The Rock announced on SmackDown that WrestleMania 42 would be held in New Orleans. Then he told Cody Rhodes that he wanted his soul, which sent the Silver King into an absolute frenzy for the better part of 3 months. On the 24th, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez regained the women's tag team championships over Bianca Belair and Naomi on Raw. And on the 28th, there was an eventful episode of SmackDown with a CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Drew McIntyre segment building to Elimination Chamber. Plus, The Miz sold the Rock Cody story better than either of them did individually or together. And normally I wouldn't mention that, but as I was, going through the archives of everything that happened, I saw the clip and I was like, yeah, Miz did a good job. He deserves a shout out there. That brings us into March. On the 1st, Elimination Chamber. Jade Cargill returned and defenestrated Naomi as Bianca Belair screamed in her pod, screamed bloody murder. Kevin Owens wrestled an incredible last match. For now, hopefully he comes back against Sami Zayn. Randy Orton returned for the KO feud that never developed due to KO's neck injury. Cody Rhodes tells The Rock, quote, "Go fuck yourself," moments before John Cena turns heel for the first time in 20 years, and Travis Scott is there for some reason waving incense in the air, and he busts up Cody's eardrum by recklessly punching him, not knowing how to properly throw a blow. Chris, Elimination Chamber was crazy eventful. I remember coming out of that saying, how is any WWE show this year going to top it? Both Elimination Chamber matches were great. You had the storyline with Cody and Cena turning heel was incredible. The KO Sami Zayn match was awesome. It was a tentpole show. And at that time, coming out of it, I think you and I were crazy excited at the possibilities of heel Cena, Cody being in this role, The Rock being involved. I don't think either of us gave a shit about Travis Scott. But things were still hugely positive going into WrestleMania at this juncture.
This moment was insane. Like, we'll get into moment of the year and all that stuff. But when this happened, it was one of the most stunning things kind of we'd ever seen. And the imagery of Cena and The Rock together standing over Cody. I think I called them the, what was it? The Break-A-Wish Foundation. I wanted to call them like,
you did, yeah.
I was like, man, you can do so much with this. I'm so excited about it. Cena sold his ass off, the facial expressions, all of it. It was a moment. I went to McDonald's the next day and saw John Cena on the drive-through billboard. I was like, people aren't going to be happy about this. It was a moment for sure.
The Rock's really weird throat slash, like going all the way up his neck to his jawline for some reason. Like, what the hell was he doing there? There was a great visual here of Cena and Rock standing behind Cody with Cena's foot, I want to say, on Cody's head. And you're just like, when would you ever see something like that in wrestling? And John Cena's retirement run. And I want to note here, because we could talk about Cena's retirement run and all these moments individually, and it would take up the entire 2 hours on the show. The thing is, we already did it. We did a John Cena retirement retrospective. We looked at his career, the entire 12 months of his run in WWE throughout 2025. There's a separate episode in our podcast feed. We're not going to spend too much additional time on Cena during this 2025 year in review because we literally already did it. So if for some reason you missed that episode, I love that show, Chris. I think you and I kicked the shit out of it. We covered it exactly as we needed to.
Yeah.
It was leading into his last match against Gunther at Saturday Night's Main Event. Please make sure you go into the podcast archive, the feed, whatever you want to call it. Make sure you listen to that episode. It was obviously from December 2025. Moving on in March. 2 days later, after Elimination Chamber on the 3rd, CM Punk called The Rock a bald fraud in an explosive promo on Raw. Punk was rocking the mic in a major way throughout the first few months of 2025, leading into WrestleMania. I rewatched many of these clips. I was floored at how hard he went during this promo. On the same show, Io Sky beat Rhea Ripley to win the Women's World Championship and set up that triple threat with Bianca Belair at WrestleMania. This was an incredible moment, and it was Silver King's resolution beginning to show itself as coming to fruition already 3 days into March. On the 5th...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Real quick, that was a moment there, too, with Punk going so hard at The Rock. It continued to feel like Rock was going to be part of this story.
Of course. And that
turned out not to be the case.
And that maybe we would get Punk Rock before the year was out also. Pun not intended.
Again, a world of possibilities felt there.
Unbelievable. 2 days later, on the 5th, WWE Evolve debuted on Tubi. On the 7th, Bianca Belair and Naomi had that home run segment on SmackDown before Jade Cargill straight up laid out Naomi, On the same show, LA Knight beat Shinsuke Nakamura to win the United States Championship. On the 9th, AEW Revolution. Lots of craziness on this card, including the Hollywood ending between Toni Storm and Mariah May that should have main evented the show. Kenny Omega beating Konosuke Takeshita to win the International Championship. Scary moments in both Swerve Strickland against Ricochet and Hangman Page against MJF, and a horrible main event with Christian Cage getting involved in Jon Moxley against Adam Copeland, cashing in his contract, no one winning the title. It was a crazy show, Revolution. On the 11th, NXT Roadblock, it was a tremendous in-ring wrestling program. The Hardy Boys returned to WWE. Obafemi and Moose put on a meaty banger. Javon Evans and Ethan Page showed out. Plus, Stephanie Vaquer beat Julia in the main event to win the women's title and become a double champion in NXT. On the 14th, the Street Profits won the WWE Tag Team Championships on SmackDown. On the 17th, John Cena made his infamous Raw appearance in Brussels, getting booed out of the building, turning on the kid in the front row, and tearing it down on the mic with Cody Rhodes. On the 19th, Jon Moxley had one of the best hardcore spots of the entire year, taking a suplex into Adam Copeland's nail-covered 2x4 spike. That was on AEW Dynamite. I actually think it's a 4x4 maybe, not a 2x4, but it was nasty. It stuck in his back. It was a visual I remember from this year. On the 28th, Naomi cut a promo of the year contender on SmackDown. CM Punk laughed at Drew McIntyre being put through a real glass windshield in London, a little wink, wink, and nod, nod to AEW All In. And on the 31st, John Cena and Cody Rhodes poured a tanker of gasoline on a feud that was only simmering going into the biggest show of the year. They had an incredible promo battle on SmackDown. Moving into April. On the 1st, Ricky Saints won the NXT North American Championship less than 50 days after signing with WWE. On the 4th, Rey Fenix debuted in WWE on SmackDown. Charlotte Flair got major go-away heat on this show. Jade Cargill and Naomi was set as the first non-title singles match for the women in WrestleMania history. And Kevin Owens, unfortunately, announced his forthcoming neck surgery and the fact that he would be missing WrestleMania. On the 6th, AEW Dynasty, Bandito beat Chris Jericho in a mask versus title match. Jericho has not wrestled since, and his AEW contract expired on New Year's Eve. Adam Cole won the TNT Championship over Daniel Garcia. FTR turned heel on Adam Copeland. Otherwise, it was a pretty forgettable show. On the 11th, The Rock posted a picture wearing a New Japan shirt with a Rubik's Cube for no reason whatsoever.
This was at a moment, by the way, when everybody was critical of the Cena heel run to this point because they didn't acknowledge, they hadn't even acknowledged or said, where is The Rock?
Right.
Why did Cena team up with him? Yet you had Cody kind of like be like, I don't even care about that. We're focused on you. They really, in hindsight, didn't quite have a plan of what to do with The Rock. And Rock responds thusly.
Right. On the 16th, AEW officially aired more episodes of Dynamite than WCW did Nitro. On the 18th...
Real quick, that's an impressive feat.
Absolutely.
AEW deserves a really more credit than it gets from the certain circles of wrestling world for doing that. That is remarkable in this today's day and age as well, when TV subscribers are going down and everything. Like, they've really built something there, and that milestone was worth celebrating.
Absolutely. It does raise, what you're mentioning, their longevity, ability to stay on TV. It has raised questions from other people about, investments in the company, what kind of piece does Warner Brothers Discovery have, and so on and so forth. But, this year included them debuting on Max, simulcasting Dynamite and Collision streaming. And it also included, we'll mention this in a little bit, their pay-per-views finally going on to HBO Max, which was something that was promised when they re-signed their contract, but didn't come to fruition for a really long period of time. So a banner year when it came to their relationship with Warner Brothers Discovery, no question about that. On the 18th, Carmelo Hayes won the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal on the Go Home SmackDown to WrestleMania. Seth Rollins cut a tremendous promo on this episode. Rey Mysterio got injured 24 hours before his WrestleMania match. Cody Rhodes got booed, revealing what fan sentiment would be like for the John Cena match in Las Vegas, but he turned it around incredibly well to conclude the show. One of the best promo reversals we've seen in a long time. Triple H also led the Hall of Fame inductees for WWE with Michelle McCool, Lex Luger, The Natural Disasters, Kamala, Dory Funk Jr., Ivan Koloff, and the Bret Hart versus Steve Austin match from WrestleMania 13, rounding out the honorees. On the 19th, NXT Stand and Deliver. Hank and Tank ended Fraxium's year-long reign. Sol Ruca won the North American Championship in a ladder match with a really inventive finish. Stephanie Vaquer gained attention with the main roster audience, and the men put on an absolute banger with Obafemi, Trick Williams, and Javon Evans in the main event. It was voted the NXT Match of the Year by fans, and it's certainly one of the best matches from that brand in 2025. We also had WrestleMania Night 1. First, a lot of stuff happened on the pre-show. Rey Fenix was announced as replacing Rey Mysterio due to injury. WWE announced a surprise acquisition of AAA with a huge to-do all over the place. Like, they had tons of people on set and they were, all promoting it in a major way. Bayley was also attacked backstage, necessitating a replacement partner for Lyra Valkyria in the Women's Tag Team Championship match. Then WrestleMania Night 1. Jey Uso beat Gunther via submission to win the World Heavyweight Championship in the show opener. New Day beat War Raiders for the World Tag Team Championships in that sponsored match. Jacob Fatu beat LA Knight to win the United States Championship. Dana White got booed twice in 1 hour. I said that earlier. Charlotte Flair and Tiffany Stratton were as messy as expected. Seth Rollins got his Easter Savior entrance. CM Punk was played to the ring by Living Color. Roman Reigns got his Bloodline entrance with images of his deceased family hanging from the rafters. 3 of the best entrances of the entire year, all in one match. And then Rollins with Paul Heyman turned on Punk and Reigns in an epic 5-star main event. And we did not know what that would eventually be. But even in that moment, it was awesome.
Yeah. And the part of the Punk entrance that stands out to me, too, is when they do his kind of career retrospective to This Fire Burns, his original WWE song. I've gone to rewatch that, I think, more than any other entrance this year. And yeah, I mean, like, we all kind of figured a Paul Heyman turn was coming, but I thought they did that in a pretty interesting way. And you ended that night thinking like, okay, like Seth Rollins to the back of the top of the company was the plan for 2025. And early in the year, you could tell CM Punk was going to be there. And then with the way WrestleMania ended, it was like, all right, we've done Punk, we've done Rhodes, Roman. We're really putting this company back behind Seth again.
Yeah. And
that was the message out of the show.
2 things I want to double back on from WrestleMania Night 1. First, the whole Charlotte Tiffany thing, because we didn't actually talk about it earlier. An absolute disaster. I mean, starting with her winning the Royal Rumble was such a bad decision. And, she came back right away. They spoiled her return. And then she wins the Royal Rumble and gets a title match at WrestleMania, as Charlotte always does. It was terrible. The segments on television where Tiffy went into business for herself, they started insulting each other for real. That was messy. And then the match itself, the match was actually better than expectation, but it was like them leaning into what had happened between them personally by like throwing haymakers and having it be a brawl more so than a, flashy wrestling match, which both of them are capable of doing. That feud, WWE thought would like set Stratton apart and it would be like a tentpole thing people would remember. And it did not go that way at all. People completely rejected Charlotte for good reason, the way she was shoved down our throat. And Tiffy didn't really benefit from it whatsoever. That's that part. And then with the main event, the men's triple threat, Silver King completely effing nailed that. You can say I got my Io Sky prediction correct. And I was right about John Cena winning his 17th title. Sure, whatever. I nailed the finish of this match. So Barry Horowitz for myself. And I believe I had that.
Yeah. The Tiffany Charlotte thing, like, it got better when it got messy, and they ultimately salvaged it into something that I do remember. And it became part of the Unreal storyline as well. But that promo was a mess, but it was like heated. And it was like, whoa, we've got some actual heat here, even if it's real. And then Tiffany got busted open in the match. We thought she chipped her tooth, but it was just some blood there.
Right.
And it ultimately, they salvaged it into something that was worthwhile, just not at all in the way they wanted or expected.
Yeah, the whole Charlotte return was just a freaking failure. It was really disappointing. On the 20th, WrestleMania Night 2. Io Sky retained over Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair in another 5-star match. Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest in the Sin City Street Fight exceeded expectations as we thought they would. Dominic Mysterio won the Intercontinental Championship in a moment that was made even better because he was sent back to the ring to celebrate after he left. That's how crazy the people were going for him. Joe Hendry surprised to challenge Randy Orton. To that point, Perfect Night was ruined by Karrion Kross helping Logan Paul beat AJ Styles. Becky Lynch then replaced Bayley, returning to win the women's tag team titles with Lyra Valkyria. Steve Austin surprised with a return. He ran an ATV into a woman through a barricade. And then the main event. With no help from The Rock, no appearance from The Rock, unnecessary assistance from Travis Scott, John Cena won his record 17th World Championship in WWE by beating Cody Rhodes in a slow, plodding, and heavily controversial main event that did not live up to expectations that you and I have discussed ad nauseum here over the podcast, over the last 9 months. So I don't know how much we need to talk about that other than to say it was a major downer to end what was a damn strong WrestleMania, both nights combined and then night 2 individually. But once that Karrion Kross moment happened with Logan Paul and AJ Styles, the whole night just kind of took a left turn, and it definitely did not recover, in the main event. The first half of that show was bordering on, this might be an all-time WrestleMania night, and instead it went that other way.
Yeah, and with the Cena main event, like we talked about it in the retrospective, the slow plotting match to me was fine. That was part of the story.
It was purposeful, right?
It was the lack of Rock appearance. We were all waiting for it. And when it didn't happen and we realized, oh, we went from Elimination Chamber through WrestleMania with nothing from The Rock.
Right.
That was we give you benefit of the doubt on the Cena heel turn. All right, like maybe you have some things planned. Maybe Rock's not available all the time. But when Rock doesn't show up there and it's just Travis Scott and you realize this is a disaster.
Right.
And that's when everybody turned on it dramatically.
And there were so many ways to fix it too. Like, just don't have Travis Scott there. Just take them out of the storyline entirely. You could have had Rock mentoring or coaching, talking to Cena, in other segments throughout the entire year that maybe weren't even live on television. There were so many things they could have done to make it fit, to retrofit the entire situation, and they just didn't do any of it. But I do remember saying this coming out of WrestleMania. I think it was like the final 2 matches from night 1 leading into the first 3 or 4 matches on night 2. If you had combined those together, it was like one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time. It was just unfortunate that stuff happened before the first night and then stuff happened after that stuff on night 2.
Yeah, there are moments where I feel like they still haven't figured out how to pace the 2 nights, because there are moments where you're getting it through night 1 and you're like, this might be the best Mania ever. And then they don't always land the plane
right
the second time around.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It is tough. On the 21st, we had Raw after WrestleMania. Randy Orton surprised with an RKO out of nowhere on John Cena, who debuted the Doomsday Clock that we loved, but was never fully used to its potential and barely showed up again. Judgment Day immediately won back the women's tag team titles, leading to the Becky Lynch heel turn that she's, of course, still doing today. Rusev returned to WWE. Stephanie Vaquer surprisingly confronted Io Sky with a post-match that showcased the entire women's division. Gunther choked out Pat McAfee. JD McDonough returned, and Braun Breaker aligned with Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman to create the Vision in the main event. This was the best Raw after WrestleMania, Chris, in years.
Yeah, it felt like there was a plan, and they executed a plan. It really much changed the vibe from the down feeling of WrestleMania. It was like, okay, like we're doing some things. We got some plans. We're with you.
Yeah,
for sure.
Like the finish with Travis Scott, that sucked. But okay, they still understand where they're going, and like everything's going to be okay. And a lot of these storylines are really exciting. On the 22nd, the day after the Raw after WrestleMania, The Rock appeared on Pat McAfee's show purely for PR reasons, saying a bunch of bullshit. He said the sole storyline with Cody was a litmus test for a heel turn. Then he buried the finish of the match that he decided not to show up for, saying he loved the finish, but would, quote, have finessed things a bit differently. This despite saying he loved Travis Scott and he put him over for training with Booker T because Travis Scott was supposed to wrestle for WWE, but never did. Okay. I'm not sure we could have believed more than like 40 to 50% of what he said in this interview. It was absolutely absurd.
Insanity.
Yeah.
And it was like, just breaking the kayfabe, burying people, absolutely just out there to cover his ass.
Yep.
And if I was anybody in WWE, I would have been incredibly pissed at it. But it was the second time.
Second time that happened.
The second, because that was The Rock's promo NXT after the Netflix debut. He saw that everybody got mad at him over it. And so he went to NXT and did this and tried to act like he still hated Cody Rhodes. And it's a good thing he did, because they eventually kind of got back to it with the Mania stuff.
But that's also, that's the third time he did it, because the year prior he had to recant everything from, his return and trying to get the match with.
No, that was his plan the whole time. Didn't you see the documentary?
Well, but that's funny. Like, that's why they did the WrestleMania kickoff for WrestleMania 40, and then in WWE, not in Unreal, sorry, the WrestleMania Behind the Curtain documentary got delayed 3 months. It was supposed to come out the week after WrestleMania. It came out 3 months later. That way The Rock could be portrayed properly. So this was 5 times in 2 years that The Rock has needed to go out of his way to make up for things that fans hated that he got involved in. It's unbelievable.
And tell people it's not his fault, or he deserves the credit.
Yeah, tell people what their eyes tell them. Their eyes are deceiving them. He's had a master plan this entire time. They're all wrong. He's right. Unbelievable. On the 23rd, Steve Mongo McMichael died. On the 24th, that disgusting audio from the idiotic roast of WrestleMania leaked. Hopefully that does not happen again. On the 25th, Fraxium debuted on SmackDown, and I thought, here we go. This is going to be an incredible tag team division, and for a brief period of time it was. Zelina Vega won the United States Championship, the first singles title of her career. Her husband, Aleister Black, returned the same night, and TLC stole the show as a 5-star match legit, with the Street Profits retaining the titles. Seth Rollins also cut a promo that day on day 2 of the NFL draft. Chris, that TLC match was incredible, and the whole Zelina and Aleister thing from that show was really cool.
Yeah, it was a spot where it's like, man, they really built up this tag team division into something incredible. And then, we'll get into it.
Going into May, the 2nd and the 3rd, Braun Strowman, Dakota Kai, Cora Jade, Gigi Dolan, Eddie Thorpe, and Riley Osborne were notable releases from NXT. None of them did anything of consequence the rest of the year. Gigi has gotten some run on the independents recently. Dakota seems to be just getting back into the swing of things at year's end. 7th to the 8th, Will Ospreay and Ricochet said some dumb tribal stuff that got them relatively owned on social media. On the 9th, Alexa Bliss made her second return to WWE in 4 months. On the 10th, we had Backlash. JC Mateo debuted. Gunther destroyed Pat McAfee. Randy Orton had a sick counter of an attitude adjustment with an RKO in the main event. That may have been their best match together, John Cena and Randy Orton. On the 11th, Sabu died. Someone named Ninja Mac did the move of a year at the New Japan show, an 11 handspring Pele kick out of the ring and all the way down the ramp. It went viral. On the 19th, Darby Allin reached the summit of Mount Everest. Kairi Sane returned to WWE on Raw. Zoe Stark blew out her knee that same night, and Roxanne Perez made her first ever appearance with Judgment Day. On the 22nd, exactly 90 days after The Rock announced WrestleMania was going to New Orleans, it leaked that WWE pulled the show, and it was later announced that Nollins would get a future Mania, undetermined when, plus Money in the Bank in 2026. 2 weeks later, Las Vegas was announced as host for the second straight year in a move that was not well received by basically anyone, including Chris, both of us.
Yeah, it was like, what? No one was that excited for it. I'm sure the way this past WrestleMania ended with bad feelings didn't help, but again, it's not often WWE does that type of stuff. To announce these things, to have The Rock do it and then change your mind like that was very surprising.
It was really shitty for New Orleans. I hated it because I was going to go to that WrestleMania, and I'm certainly not going to go to Las Vegas. And now we know, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, that the following WrestleMania is not even going to be in the United States. So that means we're now 3 years away from WrestleMania being at a place other than Las Vegas. It's just unbelievable that this is what they're doing. On the 24th, Saturday night's main event was aired. A surprise return by Bronson Reed from a talus fracture to join the Vision. Cody Rhodes returned for the first time since WrestleMania. The 25th was NXT Battleground. Trick Williams shocked Joe Hendry to win the TNA Championship, the first time an active WWE superstar has held a TNA title. It was also AEW Double or Nothing. Hangman Page and Mercedes Moné won the Owen, and Hangman's match with Will Ospreay was a highlight. On the 26th, WWE on Raw botched a match card graphic for Chad Gable against El Hijo del Vikingo, giving away that Vikingo was going to win the AAA Mega Championship off Alberto El Patron, which set up a chain of negative fan sentiment toward Vikingo that lasted through the entire year. He is now a full heel. On the 28th, in one of the most shocking moments of the year, JC Jane beat Stephanie Vaquer to win the NXT Women's Championship on television. Absolutely no one expected that. Moving into June, on the 1st, R-Truth and Carlito announced that their contracts were not being renewed, leading to major uproar from fans backing Ron Killings, wanting him to remain with WWE. On the 2nd, Stephanie Vaquer joined the WWE main roster full-time on Raw. On the 3rd, Mariah May made a shocking surprise debut in NXT, and of course, she was later known as Blake Monroe. On the 7th, Worlds Collide with NXT and AAA exceeded all expectations going in. The main event between Chad Gable and Vikingo was an absolute A+ banger of a match. On the 8th, Money in the Bank was fueled by hate, with Drew McIntyre and Naomi both winning the briefcases. Becky Lynch ended inaugural champion Lyra Valkyria's Intercontinental title reign. R-Truth returned just 1 week after being released, and the crowd went absolutely bonkers for it. And Kathy Kelly, you'll remember, cried on the post-show, basically on behalf of the locker room, which was super sweet. Money in the Bank delivered this year, to my recollection. Drew and Naomi, they were the right winners. It was so cool that they were both like hate-filled, briefcase holders where you knew that those cash-ins were going to be notable. Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria obviously went on a run of really great matches. The R-Truth moment was huge with the John Cena match. It was a solid show, top to bottom.
Yeah, it was. The R-Truth part of it all was, they tried to like play it off and like lean into, the fans wanted him back, so we got him back. But they didn't explain, they only explained his comeback on television, not him leaving.
Right.
He wasn't fired on screen.
Right.
So it was like confusing how they tried to tell that story. And R-Truth obviously shaves his head too, calls himself Ron Killings, and it's like, maybe they're going to actually do something here. And it was an unexpected kind of thing thrown into the middle of the John Cena retirement run too.
I think you may have something here.
Yeah, like I thought, oh wow, they're going to really run with Ron Killings, and of course they never actually did. But this show was really damn good, and that surprise was epic. It was. I remember Michael Cole's call on it was so eye-rolling. It was like, we want truth. No, you guys fired him. Okay. And you brought him.
Michael Cole didn't, but yes.
No, but still, he was screaming it like it was like WWE canned, like they planned this. And Triple H said something along the lines of like, the show, it's all part of the show, I think he said in the post-match press conference. Yeah. And it's like, come on, bro. Like it wasn't. Okay. Anyway, on the 9th, the day after Money in the Bank, Raw, John Cena and CM Punk was set for Night of Champions. And the crowd was really excited until they heard it was going to be in Saudi Arabia, and they booed. That same night, for the third time in 2025, WWE spoiled the return of a notable female superstar by putting Asuka's name in a Queen of the Ring tournament graphic. She was out for 13 months and returned the following week. Bayley returned on this episode after being out since WrestleMania, as did Nikki Bella, out since the Royal Rumble. And Killings got his awesome promo moment that was never capitalized upon. That was where he cut his hair that you were talking about.
Yeah, my bad.
That's okay. It was a day later. Most notable, though, was Gunther regaining the world title after beating Jey Uso in the main event, ending a reign of less than 2 months, which went on just as long as it needed to for many of us. Jey got his moment. Gunther got the title back. All was right in the world. On the 11th, AEW introduced the Unified Championship for a title versus title match set at All In between Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada, and then Don Callis got shoved into the feud for no reason whatsoever. On the 12th, Tiffany Stratton joined the list of all-time bad celebrity first pitches. On the 14th, Los Garza won the AAA Tag Team Championships. They have not appeared on WWE TV since mid-October. On the 16th, Goldberg returned to Raw to set up a retirement match with Gunther. Asuka returned and won her Queen of the Ring first-round match. Liv Morgan dislocated her shoulder for the second time, just 5 seconds into a match with Kairi, saying it was no one's fault, but it was Liv out again. On the 18th, AEW held Grand Slam in Mexico, highlighted by an incredible entrance by Mystico, one of the best of the entire year. Mercedes Moné won the CMLL championship on the show. That kicked off her belt collector gimmick. She became one of only 2 wrestlers to win titles in WWE, New Japan, and CMLL, the other being Shinsuke Nakamura. On the 20th, John Cena cut the pipe bomb promo on CM Punk during SmackDown, one of the best segments of his entire retirement run. The whole setup mirrored Punk's pipe bomb 14 years earlier. He mentioned 3 wrestlers not in WWE, which got extra attention. On the 27th, CM Punk apologized to the people of Saudi Arabia for what he said was a, quote, mean tweet directed at The Miz. This happened on the Night of Champions kickoff show, and Punk was roundly criticized for his hypocrisy of not just wrestling there, but actually apologizing. John Cena later, somewhat insanely, claimed this was among his favorite moments in professional wrestling history. That night on SmackDown, Julia won the United States Championship, and we all thought great things are clearly in store for her over the remainder of the year. Punk responded to Cena with basic Punkonomics, again, one of the best segments of Cena's retirement run. Arguably the best built feud and match, I would say, Cena and Punk during their retirement tour. Unfortunately, it happened in Saudi Arabia in front of fans that did not pop at the references that Punk made. An American crowd surely would have without question, but the pipe bomb from Cena, Doctor of Punkonomics from CM Punk, the apology, the Julia title win. This was a crazy day. June 27th. Absolutely wild.
Very much so. The Punk Cena of it all, doing it in Saudi Arabia, is very just frustrating, I think, for the last time. But both of these guys generally delivered in their promos. The Cena pipe bomb was good the week prior. Basic Punkonomics was way better than it had any right to be.
Right.
Like when he first came out,
on paper, you're like, this is, oh my God.
I was like, I cannot believe this is happening. But he did a good job with it. And, as for the Punk apologizing Saudi Arabia thing, there are multiple kind of levels and ways to look at it. As we always say in the show, our frustration with the Saudi shows and everything is not about the people of Saudi Arabia. Many of them who are big WWE fans, and the crowds there have gotten better. It's way different than the first time they went there. But the larger kind of political parts of it all, the human rights parts of it all,
right,
were the larger issues. So that was a very strange couple of days there.
Looking back on it, do you agree that Punk was Cena's best feud during his retirement run?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. And we felt that at the time. It was like, oh, finally, like here's someone pulling the most out of John Cena in this moment, because that's what Punk has always been able to do. He always gets the most out of who he's working with. It's why he's one of the best to ever do it. It's why he's one of the best promo people. This was that was the best feud for Cena.
Yeah, the timing of some of these, like obviously that should have been stateside. We wanted AJ Styles in France, right? Like there were certain ones that didn't happen when we wanted them to. But the one thing about Punk and Cena, I will say, is Cena made the right number of appearances, so it was built properly. We got those awesome segments, and ultimately we're going to look back and say, wow, it's pretty cool that Cena and Punk really got to rekindle their feud on his retirement run. And you can't really say that about everyone else. I mean, he fought all these other people, AJ Styles, Randy Orton, etc. Cody Rhodes, even, for both of their matches, the one at WrestleMania and the one at SummerSlam, there wasn't that much build between them, at least not that much memorable build outside of some, promo segments. With Punk, they were notable segments that you're going to rewatch and say, oh my God, you remember when Punk did that? Remember when Cena cut the pipe bomb? Like, they really did a good job building this match, despite its location. On the 28th, Night of Champions, Cody Rhodes and Jade Cargill won the King and Queen of the Ring tournaments, respectively. Solo Sikoa beat Jacob Fatu for the United States Championship, and John Cena retained the WWE title through an expected, overbooked finish against CM Punk, but still a fun match. On the 30th, Finn Balor and JD McDonough won the tag team titles back on Raw. Roxanne Perez became women's tag team champion with Liv Morgan ruled out. They just gave her the title. And El Grande Americano returned to WWE TV, looking stretched out a bit, but just as dominant as ever. Moving into July, the 11th, Fred Durst returned to WWE TV on SmackDown for the first time in 12 years. He was effectively banned after flipping off the camera during SummerSlam in 2013. Trish Stratus was also on this show, and Jelly Roll got into it with Logan Paul setting up his surprise match. On the 12th, we had AEW All In. Adam Cole vacated the TNT Championship, announced he would be out indefinitely. He has not returned to the ring since. Dustin Rhodes won the title in a head-scratching match. Adam Copeland returned to save Christian Cage, despite them hating each other, and Cage costing Copeland an AEW championship months earlier. Kazuchika Okada, Kenny Omega was great despite being the quote-unquote worst of their 5 matches. Okada became unified champion, and Hangman Page ultimately choked out Jon Moxley to free the AEW title. He got assistance from rival Swerve Strickland and a bunch of other baby faces. A somewhat facsimile of what WWE did at WrestleMania 41 a year earlier, but nevertheless, a really strong main event that many people will remember from AEW.
Yeah, I was at the show with my brother here in Texas, and they had moved the time up to do that show earlier in the day to avoid, I think that was the Goldberg one. That was the Saturday night's main event.
Correct.
Well, ultimately, it ended up being a good show, good crowd. They got the moment right. Like for as frustrating as the Mox run was, the payoff made it all work. You know, that's if you're going to book something like that run, you have to get it right at the end, and so it feels like it was earned, and it did. And I thought it was a great match, great card overall, really good show. A few too many things on there, like always, but had a good time and good show.
Yeah, there's a lot of people saying, well, just because it was done well in the end means the Jon Moxley title run was good. No, it wasn't. It was a pretty horrible championship run. The final couple of months when he started improving his promos and they really built toward that match at All In, that's when it started hitting. And obviously having Hangman and Swerve come back together created an awesome moment at the end, and Hangman winning the title was huge. Just doing it in Texas, even though what's he from? Like Virginia, I think, not Texas, but he's a cowboy, and it played the way they wanted it to play. It was a successful All In, no question about that. As you noted, there were two WWE events that same day. Saturday night's main event, Seth Rollins, quote, injured his knee against LA Knight, leading to a fast finish. And Goldberg retired from wrestling after losing to Gunther. His post-match speech got cut off. He was able to hit a spear and jackhammer, and Gunther took care of him really well during the match. I would argue that the retirement went as well as it possibly could. And frankly, I didn't give a shit about his promo getting cut off afterward.
Yeah, it was what that was, but the build for this was good. Another good pre-match video package with music, and Goldberg was great, man. Like he's an enigma, a legend, such a character, and it was a good way. It was a good enough match to go out on.
Yeah,
because it was like, wait, hadn't he already retired? We weren't sure. You're just bringing him back randomly for this, but Gunther did a good job with that. And I imagine that's a point as well. They very much further lifted Gunther up in the eyes of the company.
Oh, yeah. Gunther got the best possible match out of Goldberg. And this was a situation where WWE was throwing Goldberg a bone. They're like, you want to retire? All right, we'll give you a retirement match. We'll do it in Atlanta. We'll put it on a special show. And all he could do was complain that his speech got cut off. And look, it shouldn't have. Like, if NBC ended its broadcast okay, they should have kept the speech on Peacock, no question. They posted it on YouTube afterward. Like, you know what? Did it go perfectly for him? No, but the match went better than he ever could have expected. And he actually went out well. It's unfortunate that he's kind of looked back on it negatively, because that's what Goldberg always does. We also had NXT Great American Bash that day. Ethan Page and Ricky Saints continued a great series of matches. Not really a notable show otherwise. While Saturday night's main event was not booked to counter All In, Great American Bash was, and it was worse off for it because the show was thrown together and nothing really hit like it should have. On the 13th, the following day, WWE Evolution. Becky Lynch, Bayley, and Lyra Valkyria opened with an absolute banger for the Intercontinental title. Blake Monroe turned heel on Jordynne Grace. Charlotte Flair finally got over as a babyface a month after beginning to team with Alexa Bliss. Trish Stratus was quite impressive against Tiffany Stratton. Stephanie Vaquer won a number one contendership battle royal. And Io Sky and Rhea Ripley put on a 5-star A+ match of the year contender on their own. And then Naomi cashed in Money in the Bank to win the title, just cementing that match as an all-timer. Chris, look, the 2025 Getting Over Awards, aka
the Meaties,
they're going to be coming out next week. There's going to be 2 women's triple threats among match of the year. This may be the first time a women's match wins this award. These 2 were incredible. This and the WrestleMania match. On the 14th, Jey Uso debuted the idiotic mid-match Yeet Encore on Raw. This was during a number one contendership gauntlet for a world title shot. Roman Reigns also returned at the end of the show. 16th, on my birthday, Drew McIntyre attacked Randy Orton and Jelly Roll chokeslammed Logan Paul through the desk on Jimmy Kimmel Live. I bet you forgot that happened. On the 20th, TNA Slammiversary. It was the company's largest attended event in its 27-year history. JC Jane won the TNA Knockouts title, becoming a double champion. Leon Slater won the X Division title at 21 years old, becoming the youngest such champion. He got dapped up by a returning AJ Styles afterward. AJ Francis took one of the gnarliest ladder bumps you will ever see, straight to the gonads, and Trick Williams surprised by retaining the TNA title over Mike Santana and Joe Hendry in the main event. On the 22nd, WWE Hall of Famer Ozzy Osbourne died. The Undertaker chokeslammed Trick Williams on NXT. On the 24th, Hulk Hogan died at age 71. We did a special episode that day, a retrospective on Hulk Hogan's career. You can definitely look at that. Listen to that, excuse me. On the 25th, Kiana James returned to WWE TV after being out 18 months with injury. On the 28th, the Tribal Thief earned his nickname in Detroit, stealing Nike's straight off Roman Reigns' feet after tsunamiing him to hell. And on the 30th, MJF was excommunicated from Hurt Syndicate just weeks after joining, following a multi-month storyline just for him to get in the group. Kyle Fletcher also this week beat Dustin Rhodes to become the TNT champion. Moving into August, immediately we had SummerSlam. On the 2nd, it was night 1. Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair won the women's tag team titles, somewhat remaking the Bray Wyatt-Roman Reigns finish. Tiffany Stratton surprised by beating Jade Cargill clean. Jelly Roll's entrance was longer than the women's match. Luckily, Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul beat the faces here. CM Punk won World Championship gold in WWE 12 years after his last by defeating Gunther in the main event, only for Seth Rollins to surprise with crutches on the stage, dropping them, ultimately cashing in Money in the Bank for the second time to win a World Championship. And he did the heist of the century, spin with the title on the stage afterward. This is just one of many examples why, I said this earlier, it's fine to say WWE had a down year creatively compared to 2023-24, but to suggest it was straight up bad or hell worse than the 2010s onward under Vince McMahon, it's absurd. Both Money in the Banks were cashed into perfection. Naomi had Evolution, Seth Rollins here. That was just the tip of the iceberg. This was a damn good night. It wasn't perfect by any means, but it was a damn good night of wrestling.
It was a morning of wrestling for me because I was in Europe and I couldn't get the WWE network working correctly and had to basically watch it in clips until I got home to America. I can't deny how big and shocking it was. The logic of it all continues to frustrate me because he didn't need to fake the injury. He already had the briefcase. It very much felt.
I've said this before. The idea was that it would put him out of CM Punk's mind.
I know. I get it.
If Punk knew, and Gunther, either of them, if they knew that he was healthy with the briefcase, they'd be thinking about it and maybe holding stuff back or whatever the case. In this case, he was injured. This wasn't happening. It was nothing they needed to think about, so it was a bigger surprise. I agree it was not perfect.
Yes, it was a surprise.
But it was still a surprise. Yeah.
It was absolutely a surprise. But it very much felt like, oh, we just did this because you're going to put this in the next season of WWE Unreal. Because I had watched that whole first season on my flight over to Europe.
Right.
I was like, oh, we're doing this now. And it bothered me a bit. But
it's also possible, sorry to interrupt you, it's possible that Rollins did think he seriously hurt his knee in that match. And that they then booked this because of it.
That's what I had said. Because shortening the LA Knight match like that on NBC was just such a weird thing to me.
But it did get major exposure because of it too. So it was like, yeah, I know. It was weird.
Yeah, so it was what it was, but the first 2-night SummerSlam, you knew they were going to have to go big, especially, to start this thing, and they very much did.
That's right. We mentioned, earlier the TKOification of WWE, and this is not so much about sponsorships or whatever, but on both nights of SummerSlam, there was a clearly concerted effort to moment make. And one of them was after the main event of night 1, and the other was after the main event of night 2. So on the 3rd of August, SummerSlam night 2, Naomi was played to the ring by her father on guitar. This was a tremendous women's triple threat with Io Sky and Rhea Ripley. Not as good as the other two, but still great. Candice LeRae took a massive ladder bump in a banger TLC match that unfortunately had too many teams. Becky Lynch debuted her new theme. Cody Rhodes and John Cena tore the house down in an epic main event that largely redeemed, I'll say entirely redeemed. I mean, it doesn't change the stinker at WrestleMania from happening, but it redeemed both of them and their ability to wrestle together and put on a big show. This match was incredible. And then right as we're celebrating this huge match and Cena raises Cody's arm and Cody leaves the ring so that, Cena can celebrate with the fans, Brock Lesnar returns to WWE. Not so much ruining the moment, but ending the show on a note that was not what most of us wanted. And that's beyond WWE forcing footage of the White House and its inhabitants onto both shows at SummerSlam, leading to a bunch of boos from the fans. So shows that had a lot of quality content, some legitimate surprises and great moments. People also came out of these shows with a negative sentiment toward WWE, largely due to Lesnar and largely due to what I just mentioned.
I couldn't believe the Lesnar thing happened. I was really shocked.
Me too.
That they brought him back because of him being not sued over the sexual misconduct issues in the lawsuit, but being party to it, being involved in alleged offers of sex trafficking. And when they brought him back, this on top of the announcements for Saudi Arabia and various things, it was like, oh, this was the moment that felt like you said, the most TKOization of it all, which was just, we don't really care that much about what certain people may think about various things, or even if the fans are going to boo White House things. Like, we're going in on this. We feel very confident in ourselves. The momentum is on a certain side. We're going to do this. And you started to see a lot more backlash against the direction things were going.
And the hope is that WWE has realized to some degree that fans don't just want surprises to have surprises, because things did kind of calm down, I would say, later in 2025. And maybe that's just because of the time of the year. It's not WrestleMania and SummerSlam. But they did seem to hopefully realize, like, just let shit play out the way it's supposed to, and the fans will like it as long as the creative is good. But yeah, this was unnecessary. I mean, they could have done the Brock. There's another period in which Brock Lesnar returns again and F5's John Cena, kicks his ass. They could have just done it there if they really needed to do it at all. But it was Lesnar coming back while being named in that lawsuit. It was kind of, quote, ruining the moment to a degree in Cody and Cena when it was so special. It was the passing of the torch from one white meat babyface to another. And it just ended SummerSlam on a sour note that was unnecessary, because we had been given something so beautiful that initially came right before it with Cody and Cena. On the 4th Raw after SummerSlam, 105 days after it came together, the Vision was officially announced by name. Becky Lynch tore Nikki Bella up in a promo referencing John Cena, and Roman Reigns got written off again. On the 6th, news breaks that WWE will be moving its premium live events to ESPN's new streaming service with select television simulcast that has not happened yet, beginning in 2026. It was a 5-year, $1.625 billion deal, an 81% revenue increase for those events from the Peacock deal. On the 8th, Drew McIntyre claymored Cody Rhodes into the base of the announce table on SmackDown, effectively kicking off their feud. This was 5 months ago for everyone listening right now. This show also set up another match involving John Cena and Logan Paul that no one wanted. On the 15th, Sami Callihan retired in TNA. On the 16th, we had Triple Mania. Omos, 7'3", stepped in the ring for the first time since January and fought Microman, 3'3", marking the largest differential in height between two opponents in professional wrestling history, 4 whole feet. Finn Balor unveiled Demonito for the first time. AJ Styles screwed Dominic Mysterio out of the Mega title. On the 18th, Naomi announced her pregnancy on Raw, leading to the vacation of the Women's World Championship. WWE teased this for 2 hours and then gave a blatant spoiler 5 minutes before Naomi came out so they could promote Stephanie McMahon's stupid podcast. Charlotte, Asuka, and Naomi moments all spoiled unnecessarily in 2025. She cut an incredible promo, Naomi did. Turns out she wrestled 5 matches while pregnant, including the hardcore bout with Jade. Pretty crazy. Chris, Naomi's title run, her Money in the Bank, her year was like the definition of a breakout to a degree. And I'm happy for them, obviously, that they're having a kid, and that's great. But from a creative standpoint, a WWE, content standpoint, this did mess up plans, of course, for the women's division. And it also took a lot of wind out of the sails of something that seemed like it was going to be a major storyline all the way through the end of the year.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing that happened.
Not bad at all.
But it was, Naomi, when she left with Sasha Banks all those years ago, and then she finally came back, it hadn't done much for a couple of years. She finally kind of gets back up to the top here. People are behind it. the gimmick's working. It's all really good. And then step away for this. So it derailed the momentum there. Obviously happy for her and Jimmy, and hope everything goes well with that. But big moment at a time when Naomi had finally gotten to the top. And the women's division was so deep, and Naomi was able to get where she did.
Yeah. And by the way, Naomi's a nominee for Smack Talker of the Year in the 2025 Getting Over Awards, aka
the Meaties.
And this promo is one of the reasons why. She had others that were great, but this one was phenomenal. There has never been how many pregnancy announcement promos have there been in wrestling history? But there's never been a promo like this cut before. I mean, she was awesome. Going heel babyface, in character, out of character. It was pretty awesome. On the 20th, just 2 weeks after the WWE ESPN announcement, WrestlePalooza is set as WWE's debut on ESPN, the deal moving up 7 whole months. It was also announced that WWE and NBC Universal extended the Saturday Night's Main Event contract, adding an additional show in 2025 while also moving it off of NBC exclusively to Peacock going forward. On the 24th, we had AEW New Japan Forbidden Door. Wardlow returned and joined Don Callis' family, never to be heard from again. Brodito won the tag team titles. Toni Storm beat Athena. Hangman Page beat MJF. Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland both got written off with injuries after attacks. This included the Ospreay-led team winning a lights-out steel cage match. NXT Heatwave was the same day. Ash by Elegance shocked JC Jane, winning the TNA Knockouts title. Blake Monroe and Jordan Grace both stepped up. Obafemi defenestrated Javon Evans with an awesome throw into the announce table before barely retaining the NXT Championship in one of the brand's best matches of the year. 3 days later, Claudio Castagnoli and Darby Allin basically replicated the exact same move on television. On the 31st, we had Clash in Paris. Roman Reigns put Bronson Reed over before choking out Paul Heyman in the guillotine. John Cena obviously beat Logan Paul and did a Styles Clash. Becky Lynch low-blowed CM Punk to save the world title for Seth Rollins, setting off red-hot speculation about a feud involving them. Moving into September on the 1st, Becky Lynch eviscerated CM Punk in one of the year's best segments on Raw. This was also one of the best TV episodes of 2025. Becky Lynch also nominated for Smack Talker of the Year in the 2025 Getting Over Awards, aka
the Meaties.
And it wasn't just her promos in her, current gimmick that are among the reasons. It's what she did against men this year, CM Punk specifically, in September and October. On the 3rd, AEW announced that its pay-per-views were finally moving to HBO Max 9 months later. Kenny Omega got written off TV again on Dynamite. On the 5th, Sami Zayn adopted the US Open Challenge concept from John Cena and defended the title against him on SmackDown, only for Brock Lesnar to interfere as the lone setup for their WrestlePalooza match. The real headline was AJ Lee returning to WWE after 10.5 years, attacking Becky Lynch to end the show. The facial expressions and selling during this segment were phenomenal. On the 9th, Trick Williams and Carmelo Hayes reunited on NXT as Blake Monroe debuted the Woman from Hell in WWE. A lot of huge names appeared on this show, including Rhea Ripley. On the 12th, WWE made a special announcement on YouTube that WrestleMania 43 would be a Presselmania in Saudi Arabia. This was done in a mock press conference with no media, no questions. It was horrible. Barely any information was provided. It could have been an email. And this actually got booed with "You Sold Out" chants at Worlds Collide the next night. On the 13th, Worlds Collide, Dominic Mysterio won the AAA Mega Championship over Vikingo. On the 16th, we had NXT Homecoming. Finn Balor, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa all got their old themes. Stephanie Vaquera and Rhea Ripley did a double Devil's Kiss, and it was a positively received show by a wide swath of the audience. On the 18th, Raja Jackson was arrested and charged with felony assault for going after independent wrestler Psycho Stu a month earlier, probably the worst wrestling-related headline of the year. On the 19th, Corey Graves took 2 F5s from Brock Lesnar on SmackDown, being written off TV so Carmella could have a baby. On the 20th, we had AEW All Out and WWE WrestlePalooza. For All Out, Adam Copeland did an homage to John Cena with a 5-knuckle shuffle and attitude adjustment against FTR. MJF got caught in a heavy flow day against Mark Briscoe. Eddie Kingston and Big Bill had a total stinker. Kazuchika Okada, Konosuke Takeshita, and Mascara Dorada put on a total banger. And Jon Moxley won a coffin match over Darby Allin. Also, Chris Statlander won the women's title, and Hangman Page beat Kyle Fletcher in an AEW Match of the Year contender. At WrestlePalooza, WWE made its debut on ESPN. John Cena had one of his best entrances with all those kids wearing yellow. And then he got squashed by Brock Lesnar in a disappointing opener that was one of the worst bookings of Cena's retirement run. Stephanie Vaquer won the vacant Women's World Championship over Io Sky, so she won the NXT Women's title, the North American Championship, and the WWE Women's World Championship, all inside of, 9 months of 2025. Also on that show, AJ Lee returned to the ring with CM Punk beating Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch. Cody Rhodes returned to beat Drew McIntyre and retain a WWE title. A super disappointing show, all things considered, especially since it was the ESPN debut. The card was solid. Almost nothing on this delivered to expectation.
Yeah, I wasn't able to watch this one live. So the WWE on ESPN thing, that was like maybe one of the biggest stories of the year.
Absolutely.
But it's hard to evaluate it that much because we haven't gotten a ton yet to really kind of fully evaluate it. I have not been able to watch a WWE pay-per-view on ESPN yet, so I don't have strong opinions on it. That'll be something I think to watch moving forward into 26, especially with WrestleMania and whatnot. Now that we're out of football season and WWE's not running these on ESPN the same night, ESPN is focused on college football. Like there's a lot we still need to know about it, but yeah, not a good debut on it as well.
No, they tried to do things again that would make moments rather than worrying about just putting on a great show, and it suffered because of that. And again, hopefully this is a lesson that WWE has learned going into 2026. On the 24th, TNA evaded NXT with a rare intergender brawl. On the 25th, AJ Styles told a Tokyo newspaper he will retire in 2026. On the 26th, Ash by Elegance had to relinquish the TNA Knockouts title for a medical reason. Kalani Jordan wound up becoming champion. Kalani Jordan of NXT, that is. This came after TNA lost Masha Slamovich to reasons outside the ring just one day earlier, so their entire division suddenly became extremely thin. On the 28th was NXT No Mercy. Ricky Saints beat Obafemi to win the NXT title in a surprising main event booking that led to Oba missing a short period of time. Moving into October. On the 1st, Andrade appeared on AEW TV attacking Kenny Omega. Despite still being under terms of a WWE agreement, he never returned. The storyline got dropped. 90 days later, it seems like he's going to be able to appear on AEW after negotiating a more full release, but he was not cleared at this time. On the 7th, we had NXT Showdown. The name of the show got changed from Invasion in a really odd week-long story. The Hardy Boys became NXT Tag Team Champions, the first active TNA wrestlers to hold a WWE title and the oldest NXT level champions in company history. Mustafa Ali and Ethan Page put on an absolute show stealer that hopefully leads to Ali getting re-signed by WWE. On the 8th, Kota Ibushi broke his femur in a screw-up on the ropes with Josh Alexander. It was absolutely nasty and somehow aired on AEW Collision days later. Darby Allin also used a Molotov cocktail on Dynamite that night. On the 10th, SmackDown was in Perth. Aleister Black defeated Damian Priest in a last man standing match that saw Zelina Vega join him and turn heel. They are still fighting here in 2026. On the 11th, WWE Crown Jewel. Bronson Reed became the first wrestler to beat Roman Reigns and Kazuchika Okada one-on-one via pinfall. John Cena and AJ Styles put on an A-plush homage match, arguably the best of the year. Seth Rollins beat Cody Rhodes as we begged to happen to win the Crown Jewel title ring, whatever the hell that thing is. But this was a show, Chris, that I thought because of the Cena and Styles match and Rollins over Rhodes, it probably over-delivered to the high expectations we had for it, considering the way it was booked.
Yeah, this was another show I wasn't able to watch live because I was at a college football game and whatnot. But in hindsight, it looked like an incredible moment. I don't love that the whole thing got booked on, all right, John Cena is just going to do a tweet and then we're going to do it. It was another one of those, like, if Cena had some more time on this retirement run, you could have gotten a little bit more out of it. Instead, there was basically no build. They put together a great match and we enjoyed it, and they did what they needed to. So I'm glad that they didn't, but it's an example of how the Cena retirement in many ways just felt like a speed run.
Yeah, interestingly, the match being worked the way they worked it with all the homages was appropriate because it didn't have a build. Right? Like, There was no storyline to play out in the match. It was just two guys who want to fight each other, who have history, fighting each other. But you could have taken this, again, they did all that whole build for the Logan Paul match, and that happened, with multiple segments between them on TV. This should have been that. And this also should have happened in Paris which is, I believe, where that Logan Paul match was. And then if you want to do Logan Paul at Crown Jewel, okay, go ahead and do it. Like, I don't understand why they didn't flip those. Maybe there was a reason, but it was disappointing that they did not get a build. And it was just like, oh, you guys want this match? Okay, we'll do it. But they did deliver once the bell rang. And again, Rollins over Cody was super important to actually establish the vision and establish Rollins in that role that you mentioned as like the guy that WWE was basing 2025 around. And they needed him to win here, and he did. On the 12th, TNA Bound for Glory, Javon Evans and Leon Slater put on a banger, but TNA ruined the finish. Mike Santana finally won the TNA Championship over Trick Williams in the main event. On the 13th, WWE through NXT released Wesley, Ridge Holland, Stevie Turner, Lance Anawahi, Jin Tala, and BJ Ray. West returned to TNA. Ridge created a stir as he was released while injured. WWE covering some expenses. He wanted more covered. Jin Tala remained the surprise for me here, just watching her on WWE LFG. Also on the 13th, The Vision turned on Seth Rollins during Raw because Rollins injured his shoulder at Crown Jewel. That wrote him off indefinitely, and the title was officially vacated 1 week later. On the 17th, it was erroneously reported that WWE was working on using artificial intelligence for its creative, one of the dumbest headlines of the entire year. That day, Ilya Dragunov returned to WWE on SmackDown with a neck tattoo after being sidelined for over a year with a knee injury. He immediately beat Sami Zayn in an open challenge to become United States champion, kicking off his own incredible run. Oh, and Cody Rhodes, a babyface, hit Drew McIntyre with the WWE title. On the 18th, AEW Wrestle Dream, Shelton Benjamin stole the first half of the show. Chris Statlander retained over Toni Storm, solidifying her as champion. Darby Allin then beat Jon Moxley in an I Quit match after getting his ass beat the whole time and being drowned in a fish tank. And the only reason he won is because Sting returned. And if you remember, Silver King was not happy about this at all. On the 20th, AJ Styles and Dragon Lee won the World Tag Team Championships on Raw. Jey Uso won a Battle Royal to face a waiting CM Punk for the vacated World Championship. He eliminated his brother and LA Knight as part of the finish. On the 24th, Jade Cargill returned and turned heel on Tiffany Stratton during SmackDown. And on the 25th, we had NXT Halloween Havoc. Ethan Page and El Hijo del Dr. Wagner Jr. put on a banger Dia de los Muertos match. Blake Monroe won the North American title, defended by Zarya in unsatisfying fashion. Dark State won back the tag team titles from the Hardys in a convoluted Broken Rules match. But most importantly, Tatum Paxley beat JC Jane to win the Women's Championship in one of NXT's best moments of the entire year. November 1st, Saturday night's main event. Cody Rhodes retained over Drew McIntyre again. Jade Cargill beat Tiffany Stratton to win the WWE Women's Championship finally. And CM Punk beat Jey Uso to win the vacant World Championship, his first real title reign in WWE since returning. On the 2nd, Ethan Page and Chelsea Green became AAA Mixed Tag Team Champions in Mexico. On the 4th, Logan Paul effectively joined the Vision by turning on CM Punk during Raw. I'm not sure Logan being a fixture in the Vision was planned, but it definitely started here, and he is now part of that group. On the 7th, Chelsea Green beat Julia in 2 or 3 minutes to win back the United States Championship in a dumbfounding move on SmackDown. On the 8th, Kazuchika Okada was announced as Hiroshi Tanahashi's final opponent in his 2026 retirement match. On the 10th, John Cena appeared on Raw in Boston for the last time. He announced that his retirement show would be main roster versus NXT talent, and the last time is now tournament continued. Cena then beat Dominic Mysterio to win the Intercontinental Championship and complete the Grand Slam in WWE. In retrospect, you could look at this as Cena's big babyface retirement moment, because the final show, you'll remember, was supposed to take place in Boston. They moved it to Washington, D.C. So this was the final feel-good moment in front of his home crowd, becoming Grand Slam champion. And what followed was more of his pure exit. Do you think it's fair to look at it that way?
Yeah, yes, because it was a win. It was the home crowd. I think that's how I would look at that. Yeah, because it was his last TV appearance, right? Because
it was his penultimate TV appearance. His last one was in Madison Square Garden.
Oh yeah, I guess that's true.
But it was his final appearance in his hometown, though. I mean, and he got that big baby face moment. The reason I say this is because watching back a clip when I was doing this kind of recap here, I was like, man, this is the reaction he would have gotten if he beat Gunther at Saturday night's main event. But he did get it. He just got it in Boston.
This and the Madison Square Garden one to me are like, they're Cena's there, he gets the win both times. I kind of put them together in my mind.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. Also on this show, Nikki Bella turned heel, Io Sky and Rhea Ripley returned, and the Kabuki Warriors won the women's tag team titles. On the 11th, Ricky Saints and Trick Williams went to war in a last man standing match. Obafemi returned at the end of NXT, a great visual that got cut off as the show went a bit too long. On the 12th was AEW Blood and Guts. The women opened the show with Sky Blue blading 3 minutes into the match. There was a falls count anywhere between two already hardcore matches. The men closed and went even more insane with crimson masks and crazy spots. Darby Allin, who got put through flaming tables on the stage, was the key component on the babyface side, and they won the match anyway. Nothing changed with the Death Riders despite all of these consecutive losses over the second half of 2025. On the 13th, Frankie Kazarian rolled up Mike Santana to win the TNA Championship, ending his reign, which was awaited for a year by fans, at 1 month. On the 14th, Matt Cardona returned to the WWE main roster on SmackDown. He had wrestled on NXT earlier in the year. On the 17th, John Cena made his final Raw appearance in Madison Square Garden, teaming with Rey Mysterio and Sheamus, which was Sheamus' last match. He has since had shoulder surgery. Dolph Ziggler also returned to WWE TV. Maxine Dupree beat Becky Lynch to become Intercontinental Champion thanks to interference from AJ Lee. This was after she was going to train with Natalya and do all those vignettes. They aired after the fact. Gunther also returned with Symphony No. 9 as his entrance. He fought Javon Evans. And you know what? I never put two and two together that Gunther returned on John Cena's last TV show.
Oh, I guess that's true.
Yeah. On the 18th, we had NXT Gold Rush Part 1. JC Jane regained the NXT Women's Championship over Tatum Paxley, cutting her reign short and pissing off a lot of people. On the 22nd, we had AEW Full Gear. The national championship was unveiled, biting a previous NWA belt. It was the 5th men's singles title for AEW. FTR won the tag team titles over Brodito. Kyle O'Reilly submitted Jon Moxley in a no-holds-barred match. Mark Briscoe won the TNT title over Kyle Fletcher. Chris Statlander beat Mercedes Moné, and Samoa Joe beat Hangman Page in a steel cage match because Hook turned heel. On the 24th, Penta injured his shoulder on Raw. Gunther made Carmelo Hayes legitimate in a singles defeat. Brock Lesnar slipped and fell, trying to look tough, making his return, building up Survivor Series War Games. On the 25th, NXT Gold Rush Part 2, John Cena appeared to announce the Iron Survivor Challenge competitors. On the 29th, we had WWE Survivor Series War Games. The women's War Games match left a lot to be desired. Io Sky did do a swanton bomb in a trash can. John Cena lost the Intercontinental title back to Dominic Mysterio, but put over 3 women, including a returning Liv Morgan, in the process. Stephanie Vaquera and Nikki Bella over-delivered. Both War Games matches, the men in particular, were filled with star power. I like the men's more than most, but the finish came suddenly with a masked man interference and Braun Breaker pinning CM Punk. Overall, Survivor Series War Games, a show that fell way below expectations.
Yeah, again, I wasn't able to watch it live, but the Cena moment was very cool. Ending with them, I'm still surprised they ended with masked man. Like it was very, for a thing that was built up for the one of the most star-studded War Games we've ever had, and for it to end that way was so just kind of strange. And the way WWE handled a lot of its biggest stadium shows this year is interesting. Like you have the 2 run-ins at the end of SummerSlam. You have the run-in at the end of night 2 of WrestleMania. You have the Paul Heyman turn night 1 of WrestleMania. The Rumble was clean, but you got a surprise. They very much just like try to go for moments here, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. This one felt like it didn't. Like even now, with Austin Theory having revealed himself, we don't even talk about what he did at War Games. You know, like it's almost like it was barely even that relevant, which is weird, which you would have thought you wanted it to be considering the match it was.
Well, CM Punk should be really angry about it, and he really hasn't been. It was just like, oh yeah, you guys cheated to win, and he wasn't part of them. It's tough because he wasn't part of the vision, Austin Theory. So, you know, they're just trying to kind of they're trying to make it work. The problem with that match was that the run-in, the match ended immediately after that. If it had gone on another 5 or 10 minutes, we're talking about it differently, because that was ratcheting up to being a really good War Games match. And then it just was over. And you're like, wait, that's it? And that's the whole show? There's nothing else happening after the fact? So, yeah, it was pretty disappointing, all things considered. One of the, I think WrestlePalooza was worse as a whole show. But this was one of the most disappointing pay-per-views or premium live events of the entire year. There's no question about that.
Mm-hmm.
Moving into December on the 1st, Braun Breaker got his breakout promo on Raw. LA Knight beat Jey Uso as we all wanted in the Last Time Is Now tournament. AJ Styles and Dragon Lee did the really cool Slingshot Styles clash. On the 2nd, TNA announced a TV deal with AMC beginning in 2026. On the 5th, Gunther beat LA Knight on SmackDown, the best match of Knight's entire career, a fitting end to the Last Time Is Now tournament. Stax also won the TNA International Championship at Final Resolution. On the 6th, NXT Deadline. Obafemi regained the NXT Championship over Ricky Saints. Kendall Gray stunned by winning the Women's Iron Survivor Challenge in one of the best NXT matches of the year. Javon Evans won the men's equivalent. As expected, it was a way too similar finish. And then Tony D'Angelo returned at the end of the show to take him out. Nothing has happened over the ensuing 25 days of 2025 with Tony D. He's showed up on TV, not said a word, but he returned at the end of this match. On the 8th, LA Knight got written off TV after taking a tsunami into the roof of a car on Raw. On the 9th, Javon Evans got screwed by Ricky Saints, losing an NXT title match to Obafemi after deciding to utilize his number one contendership a full month early. On the 10th, Babes of Wrath became the first AEW Women's Tag Team Champions at Winter Is Coming. On the 12th, Obafemi made his first main roster appearance on SmackDown for a face-to-face with Cody Rhodes. Javon Evans also beat The Miz on that show. And on the 13th, we had John Cena's last match, Saturday night's main event. Obafemi made a huge debut despite a terrible Drew McIntyre interference in the Cody Rhodes match. Sol Ruca upset Bayley. Javon Evans and Leon Slater proved themselves against AJ Styles and Dragon Lee. And of course, Gunther made John Cena tap out to end his in-ring career, leading to fans booing and chanting at Paul Levesque after the show out of anger. If this did not happen just 3 weeks ago, we would probably spend a lot more time recounting it here, but it was an extremely well-done show. Cena tapping out to Gunther aged quite well, even just 48 hours after this program went off the air. You can listen to our instant analysis of John Cena's last match, and again, you can listen to our full retirement retrospective, both published that week in December. On the 15th, Gunther got incredible heat on Raw after tapping out John Cena. Cody Rhodes attacked Drew McIntyre at his house. CM Punk eviscerated Braun Breaker on the mic. On the 16th, Thea Hale accidentally won the North American Championship over Blake Monroe on NXT. Leon Slater became number one contender for Obafemi at New Year's Evil, taking Javon Evans' spot vacated by his match on TV. On the 17th, MJF returned to AEW on Dynamite, inserting himself into the title match at World's End. On the 20th, Cooper DeJean did a 5-knuckle shuffle celebration in a Philadelphia Eagles game. The fact that we've mentioned Cooper DeJean twice on this here interview is pretty crazy. Canelo Alvarez showed up at a AAA show in a pretty insane moment. Laredo Kid, Javon Evans, and Jack Cartwheel put on an A-plus match out of nowhere on that show. And the main event with Dominic Mysterio, Rey Fenix, El Grande Americano, and a returning Penta was crazy. Omos also returned here to join Vikingo in a heel group. On the 22nd, Austin Theory revealed himself as the masked man on Raw. On the 26th, Carmelo Hayes' push continued with a United States Championship win over Ilya Dragunov on SmackDown. On the 28th, we had AEW World's End. Jon Moxley winds up winning the Continental Classic in a possible face turn. MJF regained the AEW Championship in a 4-way over Samoa Joe, Hangman Page, and Swerve Strickland. On the 29th, the Usos win their 9th set of tag team titles in WWE on Raw, ending the reign of AJ Styles and Dragon Lee. And on the 31st of December, Willow Nightingale ended the year winning the TBS Championship from Mercedes Moné on AEW Dynamite. So that was your 2025 year in review. Obviously, a ton of stuff happened. A lot of notable things from WWE in particular. AEW set its course more right than it had been going into the year. Overall, Chris, another crazy year of professional wrestling. Again, not as crazy as it was in 2022 and 2023 when we started this exercise, but I would definitely say this was more up and down of a year than 2024, which was pretty damn consistent, primarily for WWE when you went into WrestleMania, everything that happened with Cody Rhodes winning the championship. This year, everything from WrestleMania onward was just awkward to a degree because of TKO, the ESPN deal. There was so much business that was injected into what WWE gave us in 2025. It stands to wonder whether that will continue into 2026 or whether that was a one-off and just kind of like a course correction to a degree of this is the way things are going to go now.
Yeah, I don't think WWE 2025 was a step down from 2024.
Absolutely.
And maybe in which maybe was even 22, 23, that period when Triple H took over, that first year and a half was fantastic.
Well, let me
2024
just say one thing. I would say 2022 was like a correction year, like
Yeah.
moving over from Vince McMahon to Paul Levesque. 23 and 24 were the strongest years WWE's had in
in a long time.
like a decade and a half, maybe longer, those 2 years. And then 2025 would be a step down from that, because unless you're going to continue to run that way, it's almost impossible to do that. So it was a step down from that. I would say it was akin to 2022 maybe, but certainly way better than all the years that came before it. I'm talking about 2025.
Yeah. I would just say, I don't think WWE ends the year with momentum. I don't think it's a year where we kind of established new things.
Agreed.
Previous years, we had established Cody at the top. We did move Jey Uso up into the main event spot, but we're kind of in a transition space here where we still have, Roman, AJ Styles, Brock around, CM Punk's older. You got a lot of older stars right now. And toward the end of the year, you've seen them try to start putting some of that young blood with Javon Evans and Obafemi making some stuff.
Carmelo Hayes got strapped up. Ron Breaker's in the main event. Yeah.
But you look at the main event, LA Knight's, in his mid 40s. You look at the top of the card, and it's like, WWE doesn't have many people in their prime right now. I think Cody's as close as maybe as you could get. Jey Uso, I guess. No. But it is like, we're in kind of a weird spot here where I think the momentum and the upswing of all these new people elevated around WrestleMania 40, the crowning moment, all ending the Bloodline story. That was kind of a bit of a mini era there. Mm-hmm. And now we're in kind of a weird spot, I think.
Yeah, I think the prime has shifted for a lot of wrestlers. It used to be late 20s into early 30s. Now it's like late 30s into the beginnings of the 40s to a degree, or maybe it's the whole decade of the 30s is a better way to put it. So you're right to a degree. I will say, and this is what you mentioned at the end, WWE, it felt like for a large portion of the year, was stuck on the old, right? As this year has ended, Carmelo Hayes was made champion. They are promoting Trick Williams, Javon Evans, and Obafemi on television. They did just bring in, this year, Stephanie Vaquer and Julia. And Julia didn't do much, but Vaquer had a breakout year. So it seems like they're starting to get to their youth.
Braun Breaker's had a title match.
Yeah, Braun Breaker's in the main event of the first Raw of the year against CM Punk for the title. Dominic Mysterio is as popular as he's ever been. There's a good chance one of these people win a world title. And that's what WWE barely needs, an injection of youth into its main event scene, both for the men's side and the women's side. The women are younger, but the women still need that too. So you're right.
The main event spot, especially, that's what I'm talking about. Who are the guys? Who are the stories who are carrying the show? And it's a lot of older people. So who are those next young people to not just move up to the main roster? I'm talking about move into the main event.
100%.
And I don't know if there's that many people there. So it's kind of bifurcating here between the really young people coming up and the older people who are kind of holding a lot of the titles.
It's not just young.
There's not a lot in the middle.
It's not just young, it's fresh, right? Jacob Fatu, LA Knight. These are people who can get elevated where it's not so much that they're young, although I think Jacob is relatively young, but they're fresh. They haven't been in those positions before. So get them there. Io Sky, finally, she had been champion before, but this year she was actually platformed as on par, really better than Rhea Ripley and Tiffany Stratton and all these other women that have been heavily featured in WWE. The other thing people need to remember about WWE in 2025 is there were a lot of major injuries. Liv Morgan was out for a big period of time. Bianca Belair has not returned since WrestleMania. She's one of your top 3 women in the entire company. She's been gone. Seth Rollins obviously got injured. They were building Raw entirely around him. Naomi got pregnant and off screen. There were 3 major women's injuries / pregnancies that completely altered plans for that division on Raw and SmackDown as the year progressed. So Jade Cargill got injured. She split open her head also. So that got delayed, her feud. So it's been one after another with the women's division. On the men's side, a little bit, of injury and stuff. But they also, let's not forget, spent so much time and so many resources on the John Cena retirement. It took up so much air during 2025. And even in 2026, where we're going to have the AJ Styles retirement, it seems like we're going to have a Brock Lesnar retirement, possibly a Rey Mysterio Jr. retirement. Hiroshi Tanahashi at the beginning of the year, that's not WWE. You're also looking at a potential return of Chris Jericho. Are they going to retire him in 26 or 27? So this retirement run, the aging out of some of these superstars is happening, but WWE is using it to promote shows and build business, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. None of those, in fact, all of those combined probably will not take up as much air as John Cena did.
No, like, we end Raw with, an Austin Theory, Rey Mysterio thing.
Right, Austin Theory. I forgot.
There are some guys that are being put into the main event scene, but they don't feel like main eventers yet. So when do you develop your next big stars? I think they're still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, that's going to be
so be interesting. And with AEW, I think it was on the whole, a big step forward this year.
Absolutely.
From 2024 was rough, like ups and downs on the year for sure, but they got way more focused on what they wanted to do. You'll have Ospreay back, presumably a lot more in 26.
Swerve Strickland and MJF just came back.
Yeah, so I think AEW closed the year with momentum, and they're in a much better place than they were a year ago.
Yeah, they're in a better place from a creative standpoint than they were a year ago. They're really hunkering in on like the sickos and just delivering that type of wrestling and not really trying to do that much else. And whether business-wise that's a good decision, it's really tough to say. Like their attendance is down, their ratings are down. Like those things are legitimately happening. Yes. But the product on television, watching Dynamite, is not a chore, and it was a chore in 2024. The shows are generally better, the wrestling has been better, and the product is more interesting. Whether they can continue that and figure out a way to grow their business in 2026, that's going to be really interesting. WWE, there's no real questions about growing the business in 2026. It's what are they going to do creatively and what are they going to do with their roster and the youth movement, which it does seem like it's going to be coming.
And I think AEW also learned this year to do more smaller venues and yes, fewer of the bigger ones with the tarps. It comes off better.
It comes off way better.
Smaller shows.
Yeah. Don't try to be a big company if you're not, like, and just, exist in the area you are and succeed to the best of your ability at that. And that's what they are trying to do. And it seems to be working for them. So that is hugely positive. So Chris, we successfully wrapped up 2025 and we just started a brief look ahead into 2026. We're going to conclude this show the way we began it, with 3 predictions each for the ensuing year. We're going to do it exactly the same way. You and I will go 1 for 1 with predictions. And a year from now, we will bring back LA Knight and he will decide whether we deserve a or a based on our predictions and whether they come to fruition. We will also have the additional segment at the end of the show, our 2026 resolutions for WWE, AEW, professional wrestling as a whole. So Chris, let's get into the predictions first, 3 of them each. We'll start with you. We'll go back and forth. What is your first prediction for professional wrestling in 2026?
John Cena does not appear on WWE TV at all. It would be the first time since like the beginning of his career, basically, for the whole year.
Wow.
I know he's an ambassador and all these kinds of things. I think he's going to fully pull away for at least the full year, maybe longer.
When you say appear on TV, you mean appear live?
Yes, like not highlight package doesn't count. What
I mean is, what if he does like a press conference thing, or he sits in on something where he's promoting WWE and they show a clip of it on television?
No.
You're saying he's not going to be on one of the shows in person, is what you're saying?
Yes, he's not going to show up on Raw or SmackDown or pay-per-view. Not that he wouldn't get physical, but just to even be there. I think he's going to fully cut away for at least a year.
Okay, I disagree with that. So that's going to be really interesting. I do think we see him at some point, whether it's WrestleMania, SummerSlam. I do believe we see him this year. That's interesting.
Like, I here's what if he's sitting in the crowd at WrestleMania and they show him, I'm that, like, I'm including that. I don't think that will happen.
Okay. No, yeah. And I even disagree with that more. So that's good. That's a good, bold prediction. The whole point of these is to be relatively bold, but
Yeah.
We're trying to make sense of things that we believe will happen as well. So since you mentioned TV, I'm actually going to switch one of my predictions. WWE will allow AJ Styles to appear in TNA at least once more before he retires. It might set up a match with a TNA talent. Maybe that happens on a WWE show, but AJ Styles does once more show up in TNA before he retires from the ring.
Well, I feel like that's not that bold since he did it already. Do you want to say match? Like you want to have a match in TNA?
I don't think they're going to. I don't think they're going to risk that, because the reason why is because the agreement is NXT and TNA in terms of a talent exchange. They allowed him to show up on a tentpole pay-per-view, their highest attended show ever. That was a very special case. I don't think there's another special case in 2026. So them allowing him to show up again is a benefit for Styles. You're retiring. You can show up in TNA. I'll say he shows up and gets physical on TNA TV. I don't think he's going to have a match though. But the prediction really, I do think it's still a bold prediction for him just to show up again. Because we're talking TNA TV. I'm not even talking about just a pay-per-view. I'm saying he's going to make an appearance and it's going to be meaningful. Let's put it that way. A meaningful appearance on TNA TV or pay-per-view. How about that?
Okay. I think that works.
Meaningful appearance. Okay. Your second prediction.
Going to build off of last year. Will Ospreay wins the AEW World Championship, but he does it in London.
Okay.
They actually do. I'm going to be very specific. No halves or anything here.
Okay.
At that show in the summer in London is when he does it.
Okay. Fair enough. I mean, it is a rehash, but I'll give it to you. And I'll give it to you because this one's not a strong one that I have, but I want you to stay with me as I explain this. You're going to see a lot of new wrestling adjacent content on television, streaming services, and in theaters potentially in 2026. I'm not even talking about WWE stuff. Wrestling themed shows and movies, at least 2, maybe 3. Separately, and this is a fact, not a prediction, so I'm just kind of telling everyone this, WWE superstars are going to be everywhere this year. Movies, TV shows, a lot of stuff was taped or scheduled for taping in 2026. Obviously, we know about like Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns and Street Fighter, but Liv Morgan has that movie coming out. There's a lot of TV shows. Becky Lynch is in the new Star Trek. They're going to be everywhere throughout the entire year. Drew McIntyre is in Highlander, I think. Like, it's going to be crazy. WWE people are going to be everywhere. But this prediction is about wrestling-themed shows and movies that are not about WWE.
Okay. I was going to say, because a lot of those things are predictions because they're already been recorded. You're saying we're going to get them doing things
like a wrestling, not even WWE, but like a drama about wrestling, like Heels. A reality show about wrestling, a movie about wrestling. Like, there are going to be a variety.
Ready to Rumble too.
Not that. I mean, that would be great, but a variety of content like that is not produced by WWE in 2026. That's my prediction.
Okay. It'll be interesting looking back how we say you got it right or not.
Right. Yeah. I know it's thin. But I just think wrestling, the whole point of the prediction is that, and you know this, media is salivating for content.
Yes.
And if you look at so NFL used to have Hard Knocks only, and they did it in the preseason before the season. They introduced Hard Knocks during the season. Then you go over to Amazon and you're seeing like, I don't even know what team it is, but like the Pittsburgh Steelers 2025, and there were cameras with them the whole year. And then you go to this channel and there's another Inside NFL. You go to Netflix, there's what's it called? Quarterbacks, that special documentary. Yeah. Like, it was one thing after another. And everyone is trying to do as much as they can about football. Same thing with baseball, basketball, etc. I think that's going to happen with wrestling, not just when it comes to WWE produced stuff, but also, people love wrestling. Wow, wrestling's really popular. We're going to do a wrestling drama. We're going to do a wrestling sitcom. I just think in 2026, maybe it'll produce and air. Maybe it'll just be produced and announced. You're going to see a lot of that kind of stuff. I'm saying at least 2, maybe 3.
Okay, and my last prediction, last or second? Is this my second?
This is your third.
No, it's my last one. I'm going to kind of piggyback off that in the other direction.
Okay.
I think we're going to have conversations this year about WWE ticket sales and some things declining a bit.
Ooh, I agree.
From being at a high,
An all-time high. Yeah.
All-time high in terms of revenue and attendance and all this stuff. I'm wondering if it's starting to get oversaturated. And you're doing a 2-night SummerSlam in Minnesota. Is it Minnesota this year?
Minnesota. Yep.
You got that one. You got a second WrestleMania in Vegas that people aren't jazzed for.
Yeah, cannot do as well as the first. There's no way. I'd be shocked.
Yeah. And they've already kind of come down from that period where they had X amount of consecutive sellouts like in 2024.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we start to wonder, all right, like, is it a bit too much and are people kind of getting drowned by it? And we start to have a couple of those conversations.
If we can quantify it, because revenue, it's going to be tough to say it's down. They may increase prices.
Not revenue.
But you're saying,
it's
attendance.
Kicking in.
Yeah, numbers of people at shows. What percentage would you say would be quantifiably down? 10%? 15%? Like, what would you say?
That's a lie.
Because a 5% fall is really minimal.
No,
there's
I know,
no John. You also have to remember. Let's quantify this too, or contextualize. Hold on one second. Let me contextualize this. There's no John Cena this year, so
correct.
All of those John Cena shows rocketed up attendance. So it is going to be down. I think it's going to be down 5 to 7% just because of no John Cena. So I think you need to say like 10% or more for it to be precipitous.
I think we have a conversation around WrestleMania of ticket prices on the secondary market are actually pretty cheap compared to what they've been.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And maybe SummerSlam we say ticket sales aren't maybe quite what maybe we thought. Like that specific kind of conversation, mm-hmm. I think we have because the numbers will be there.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I think we need to come up with some percentage on overall WWE attendance declining. Because it will. I know it's going to.
I mean, I don't know the number. I don't know what the number is or who's calculating it. Like, I have no way to check that. I don't know.
Well, WWE has to announce it in their earnings reports and stuff. So
right.
the numbers are out there. I'll go ahead. I'm going to put it on for you. I'm going to say a 10 to 12% decline in attendance would, to me, say it's more than just Cena.
Well, like if attendance goes down, then you start lowering the ticket prices to try to get the attendance back up.
Theoretically.
So like. That's why I mean, like, you may not have by the end of the year as much of a drop, but maybe we've seen ticket prices come down from their record highs because the demand isn't quite as there.
Yeah. I mean, that would be nice for fans. And I think you're also putting the economy into play here. Like things are not going well and people are losing money and everything else is going up. And the area where people cut back when the economy is bad is entertainment generally, especially live attendance entertainment. So yeah, I do think WWE is going to go on. I think that's a great prediction. I just wanted to kind of put a number on it, but we'll have to see what it is at this time next year, and then we can determine whether it was correct or not.
Yeah.
And my third prediction, I'm going to give you a 2-for-1. I'm going to go out on a limb. Okay. Liv Morgan will win the Women's Royal Rumble, and Dominic Mysterio will win Men's Money in the Bank. And now that I kind of say that out loud, I feel like maybe it could be LA Knight winning Money in the Bank because they've had him come close 2 years in a row. And that's kind of what my prediction is for Liv. She's come close to winning the Women's Royal Rumble so many times that maybe it should be Liv and LA Knight. But I don't know that they're ever going to give LA Knight Money in the Bank. And it would be perfect for Dominic's character. So my main prediction is Liv Morgan will win the Women's Royal Rumble and go on to WrestleMania and win the title back at WrestleMania. But secondarily, I also believe Dominic Mysterio will win Men's Money in the Bank.
Liv winning the Rumble is a great call. Like, they very much set that up for a couple of years and to be a good time to do it. That's a good one. I was close to predicting LA Knight world title. So you picking Money in the Bank, maybe, or Dom or whatever. Yeah. Like, I'm on that same fence with you where it's like, it feels like if you're going to do it with LA Knight, this might have to be the year.
You got to do it now. Yeah.
So it could be, but Dom's a good call too. On both fronts.
Dominic will be my, second part of that prediction right there.
Yeah.
All right. So those are our 2026 predictions. And now, Chris, our 2026 resolutions. Do you have 5 like I do, or, where are you at?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll go first on this one and you can intersperse between mine. First resolution for WWE. Fix your production and branding issues. It is asinine that a multi-billion-dollar company struggles with music, entrances, names, and tons of stuff that used to be no-brainers. There is no reason for someone to debut or return with a half-assed entrance or a half-complete song that gets changed 3 or 4 times over the ensuing month. There's no reason to bring back a great entrance theme, then get rid of it. It should not take 3.5 months to name a faction The Vision, which we all said it should have been named the day it was formed. Get your shit together and present a more coordinated product. That's
a good one. Very much agree with that. This is for both WWE and AEW.
Oh.
Fix and emphasize and lean into tag team wrestling again.
Yes.
Both of them really fell off. AEW hasn't been there in years. WWE finally had done it on SmackDown the first half of the year, and then the Wyatt Six of it all just blew it all up.
Yep.
But now you've got the belts on the Usos, and you're starting to develop a division there on Raw. Really lean back into tag team wrestling, the value of it, real teams, real team feuds, stuff that matters in tag team wrestling. It's really been missing from pro wrestling for the last couple of years.
Yeah,
so
it was
give me good tag team divisions again.
It was supposed to be a differentiator for AEW, and it was for years.
It was.
And then it just disappeared from them, and WWE's always been up and down, but this was the worst year in tag team wrestling in a long time, industry-wide. Not just WWE and AEW, but especially WWE and AEW. I completely agree with that. Yeah. WWE, repair everything about SmackDown's creative. Its booking, its roster, everything on Friday nights. Call up NXT talent, get Road Dogg out of the main chair, focus the show differently if you must. Make it a more wrestling-heavy program. Feature tag teams more significantly, to Chris's point. Allow a regular talent exchange with NXT, but most importantly, book the women equal to the men. We see it Monday on Raw and Tuesday on NXT, but we don't see it Friday on SmackDown. Of the national TV shows in 2025, SmackDown was only better than Collision, which is probably written and booked on napkins weekly, considering how terrible that show has been. Fix SmackDown, and your product will be much better for it, because it's half your main roster product.
By the way, we're going back to 3-hour Raws. So
3-hour SmackDowns.
I'm curious.
3 hour.
Sorry,
SmackDowns.
3-hour SmackDowns.
Yeah.
Do we think that will be good?
So you know what?
Or bad?
When they started those 3-hour SmackDowns last year, we rolled our eyes and we're like, oh my God, this is going to be dreadful. And it was at the beginning. And then after like 2 months, all of a sudden we're like, holy shit, the women are getting featured. The tag team division gets like 45 minutes a week. They were putting on bangers. Yep. They figured it out. And then just as they figured it out, it went back to 2 hours. So I do believe that could be part of the repair process. However, you have to continue it after the fact because it's only 3 hours until around WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Or SummerSlam.
This is mostly WWE. My next resolution. No more referee calls for the bell because someone passed out. Make the 3-arm drop a regular part of submissions now. We saw it a couple of times. We saw it with John Cena's retirement against Gunther.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it with Pat McAfee in his match against Gunther.
We did.
And both times it got the crowd back up cheering for the babyface. Make this like the standard again. No more the referee taps the guy's chin or whatever and then go ring the bell. No, give me the 1, 2, 3 arm drop. Make that standard across the board because we saw it a few times finally again this year and it worked.
Mm-hmm.
So just make that the full-time thing.
I'm going to add to yours. First of all, it's not just a WWE issue. That's an AEW issue also. But tap out. Like, stop the pass out stuff only. It's okay to use it, but tap the hell out sometimes. And we are seeing that now in both companies. Like, people are actually tapping out again, which is good.
Every company, you get 3 pass outs per year in your whole company. Your whole like that's it at most.
I agree.
You got to limit that.
4 if it makes sense, but you get 3. I agree. 3 should be it. This one's for AEW. Seriously, just take 25% off there, buds. Like, even your most hardcore fans, they're not going to miss bloodletting and blood drinking. Curtail the violence. Try to broaden your audience. Book quality matches all you want, but put together bouts that actually matter in storyline. Don't just book for the sickos. Don't just try to put on bangers. Give people title matches when they actually deserve them, not just because they signed with the company or they're kind of over with the fans. Get rid of at least 1, if not 2, of the men's singles titles. Just take 25% off everything and your product will be better.
the length of the shows. Yeah,
Everything.
for sure.
Oh,
for
yeah.
sure.
25% off the length of the pay-per-views also. Agreed.
Yeah. Now that I'm out of football season pretty much, I am looking forward to getting back into AEW a bit, just kind of regularly. I do listen to the weekly show you do with NXT, so it helps.
Yeah, you don't have time. It's too much.
For sure.
Yeah.
My third resolution, Judgment Day. Please stay healthy. Everybody's gotten hurt over the last year, and it keeps changing up the plans, and it's a credit to all of them that they've continued to evolve and make it work. But please just get through the year healthy. No dislocated shoulders, no this or that. Like, please stay healthy. Give me a full year of a full storyline. And if it's a breakup at some point, it is. But I want it to go out on its terms and not because everybody kept getting hurt.
Bonus prediction. Does Judgment Day break up in 2026?
Yeah. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I say yes also. I believe this is the end of Judgment Day. And hopefully we get another new faction that's similar with men and women involved and something that's really interesting. But I do believe this will be the end of Judgment Day at some point.
I guess that's a bigger resolution than the one I did, which was they're going to break up. But
no, I like the idea.
I don't want to make that. I don't want to make that an official one.
No, that's because also
I guess it's not a prediction.
That should be more of a prediction, not a resolution, anyway. So yeah, no, we both want them to be healthy, to finish their story, and then break up. I like them being together, but I still want them to break up. WWE, do less. Okay, there was that absolutely ridiculous stretch of constant special events over the summer into the fall before football season. That was absurd. PLEs, Saturday night's main events, bonus NXT and AAA shows. It was the most insane run of extra programming WWE has ever done in a short window, and the TV product completely cratered as a consequence because it's basically impossible to book 8 hours of weekly TV, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, while building for special shows every single week. Everything would have been better with 1/3 fewer shows because TV would have been able to build to these matches, and we as viewers would not have been as inundated with content. As we said during the year, 66% of the time people said WWE was booking stuff to directly compete with AEW. It was actually somewhat coincidental, and those claims are fabricated. However, the other 33% of the time was WWE directly competing with AEW, and that shit needs to stop. No one benefits from it. Those bookings did not hurt AEW in any significant way. Did they divide attention? Sure. At the same time, the product WWE put forward was not its best. So if you're having people tune into you and you're not putting on incredible shows, then they're not going to keep watching. Stop that shit and give us less during the fall and summer. Let stuff breathe, please.
Seems like your biggest thing for 26 is just less pro wrestling.
It's not
less from AEW, less from WWE.
No, I want less ridiculousness from AEW. Their amount of events is fine. With WWE, I want fewer events because of the run. I mean, we talked about it. I did the math. It was whatever those numbers were absurd. Not only did I do the math, I looked historically in WWE. Nothing like that had ever happened before. And it was absolutely ridiculous.
My fourth resolution: have Gunther win the main event of night 2 of WrestleMania.
Wow.
If it's Cody, if it's whatever, you have to establish him as one of your biggest stars, your biggest heel, because of what you have done with him in 2025, which was retire Goldberg, retire John Cena. You have to put him to the top now. You have to do that. I prefer it be Cody in the main event, win the top title, but he has to be the last thing we see at WrestleMania.
All right. I agree with that for sure. And lastly, in the same vein as my resolution with Io Sky last year, because it was my lips to Triple H's ears, apparently, WWE, you got to do something with LA Knight. Okay. I'm not sure that they need to give him a world championship per se, but a legitimate and extensive mid-card title run at a minimum with high-end storylines. Something that lasts for a long period of time where he can main event TV shows and it feels like he is a main eventer, even if he is not world champion. That needs to happen. He has to be important to this company. The guy wrestled more matches than any man in WWE this year. I would be down for him winning Money in the Bank. Sure. This guy is 43 years old with the young crop of talent coming up that we talked about. 2026, it feels like it's now or never for LA Knight, and it needs to be now. So get off the pot, Figure out a way to book this guy where even if you're not making him world champion, you make him a centerpiece of your babyface creative in 2026.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. As everybody knows, it feels like they might. Like, he was in a lot of main event stuff this year, and I think giving him the time off to make an impactful return makes a lot of sense.
Could you see him winning the Royal Rumble?
Yeah.
Me too.
I could.
Yeah, me too.
I think that'd be really cool. Give AJ Styles the deserved retirement run. It doesn't have to be John Cena, but I want him to wrestle great matches, new faces, big names. I want it to feel like a big deal that AJ Styles is retiring and that he's not going out sad or some point. Like, this is one of the best wrestlers of his generation. His career was very much elevated by coming to WWE in a way that is not always the case with a lot of people who spent a long time out of WWE. He is probably a WWE Hall of Famer now.
Absolutely.
And I want him to go out in a big way, in not like a Kurt Angle type of way. So make it matter as we get to the end of AJ Styles.
Yeah, if you put Kurt Angle at a 0 out of 10 and John Cena at a 10 out of 10, not saying his retirement run was perfect, saying the time and effort.
Treating it as a big deal.
Yeah, the time and effort that they put into it, Styles needs to be at least like a 7. Like they need to give him, because we don't know when he's going to retire. We've been speculating it would be at WrestleMania, but I kind of feel like he might go later in the year. The problem is there's a huge expectation that Brock Lesnar retires at SummerSlam, which is in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So You have to either do Styles a couple months before that or a couple months after that. And I don't think he's going to be wrestling the entire year. So whether it's like WrestleMania itself or May or June, somewhere in that area, not only should AJ Styles, first of all, he should have a WrestleMania singles match, whether that's a retirement match or not. I completely agree. But he should have, starting now, some major feuds, a championship reign. It does not have to be a world title. It would be nice if it was, but an intercontinental title reign, a United States championship reign, something that puts him regularly on TV and in the forefront of the product, while he is also going through a couple key opponents. And then his retirement match needs to be a storyline. It doesn't have to be, career or leave WWE, but it needs to be something where there's a couple months of build, 8 weeks-ish, where it's all leading to that crescendo moment, which is his final match in WWE. It's the opposite of what happened with Kurt Angle. And it's not even really the same as what happened with John Cena, because again, there was not much build to the Gunther match. It was really just a tournament and then Gunther cutting a couple promos. But I completely agree with you. I don't mean to jump on your resolution, but it's a great one. The Brock Lesnar retirement, you can build that in 4 weeks and just do a single match on that show and you're fine. That's not how AJ Styles should be. It's certainly not how Chris Jericho or Rey Mysterio should be if those happen this year. I don't know when those will go down. I'm guessing, if I had to guess, Chris, AJ Styles and Brock Lesnar this year, Chris Jericho and Rey Mysterio in 2027, but we will see. All right, folks, that wraps up your 2025 year in review, our 2026 predictions and resolutions. We will discuss those 12 months from now, right back here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. We have a ton of incredible performance-enhancing audio coming your way to start the year. Not only are we covering WWE, NXT, and AEW, as we always do, coming your way next week, the 2025 Getting Over Awards, aka
the Meaties.
Look out for a ballot from us on social media at Getting Overcast. You can find it on Twitter and Blue Sky. Also there, you get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show. On YouTube, you can listen to full-length audio episodes and watch full-length video interviews, again, across the board at Getting Overcast. Let's also remind you that here at Getting Over,
it's all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. And don't forget,
I happen to love the number 5.
Hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. It is the beginning of January, the perfect time to sign up for a calendar year. buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Vintage, I hope you have a happy new year. Everyone listening, I hope you do as well. Like I said, we have a ton of performance enhancing audio coming for you just in the month of January, but we are kicking off the early road to WrestleMania. It's all going down the first few months of 2026, and this is when the Getting Over Wrestling podcast shines. So, for Vintage Chris Vanini, this is the Silver King Adam Silverstein signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.